As the leader of the Booner Pack, I lead from the front.
All right, boys. Lock in.
It's our core foundation, man. Grit.
I'm fired up. I'm fired the f*** up, boys.
It's pumping right now. It's got my juices pumping, boys.
All right, we are live here on Crunch Time Sports. Jeff Iafrate, Booner, day after the Lions beat the San Francisco 49ers. Hope everyone's doing well. Happy New Year's Eve. You know, we're on the cusp of 2025, Boo. Almost end of the year. That's crazy to think about. But the Lions have a big game this week, battling on Sunday for the number one seed, the NFC North, and take care of business in San Francisco. We'll give our thoughts on it, talk more about the Vikings game. But Boone, how you feeling now? A day removed.
I mean, I will say this. I feel great. Victory Tuesday. I know there are some things, Jeff, and I understand this, that, there are some worries with this Lions team, but they just keep winning football games, 8-0 on the road, Victory Tuesday. They find a way to get the job done. I said it yesterday on the post-game show. I think there's one thing that I love about this team. The fact you have Dan Campbell at the helm. Like I love that, because no matter what, as bad as your defense can be, if you're turning the ball, anything that's ever going wrong with this football team, whatever it is in any game, Dan Campbell finds a way to rally the troops and get guys going. And you're down in that game, a game that you're supposed to probably win by a lot. Now we know, Jeff, and kudos to, I think, Caleb and you too. Just kind of seeing the 3.5 spread, be like, hey, there's probably something fishy going on here that we don't know about. And you see, it was a good football game. It was a close game, a lot better than we expected. But I think Vegas and people around the NFL had an idea of that. Hey, the 49ers, Jeff, to your point, this was kind of their Super Bowl, and that was their last hurrah for the season. I know obviously they have week 18, but this Lions game, that was their hurrah. So as I slept on it a little bit more, at first it was that was a bad 49ers team. You should have beaten them by 1 million. The fact though that they were able to get the job done on the road to a team that Nick Bosa, you could tell he was all he wanted to do was win. You have some of the best players in the NFL. All they wanted to do was win yesterday. They didn't care about how bad the season was. That was probably their best game that they played all year. And the Lions it was like the Lions took a punch to the face, took another one, a left, a right, and then they were still standing, and they said, all right, we're about to come back. And then they just went and knocked them out, which is what you want to see from this Lions team. You're going to get everyone's best shot, and that's what it is. And now you have the Minnesota Vikings, the biggest game of the season, on the line. I already see Vikings fans here in our chat, which I love that. Shout out Devin Adams, said 24/7 lives rent-free in Lions fans' heads. Devin's in our chat, so we live rent-free in his head. So shout out Devin. No, hey, I do love it. And it's sports, so it's a good time. These are and Dan said it yesterday. These are the games you like. This is why you play this. You play football. Right. It's for these games. This is what the sport's all about. So I'm pumped up. I love the fact that the Lions are in a position now going forward. We could be back 0-16 where you're sitting there looking at the draft by now. We're looking at an NFC North championship game essentially and a 1 seed on the line, which is unheard of here in Detroit, which I'm pumped up about.
Yeah, Coach Walk said, boys, I thought it was 1-3. Well, yeah, we did pivot a little bit. Had to go a little earlier because we have some other things we got to take care of. Especially I got something for Bleacher Report later, so we figured we go live at noon. For all the people. So appreciate you for tuning in, all of you. Braylon, thank you for the $2 as we went undefeated on the road this season. Yeah. Actually, funny enough, he mentions that. Jared addressed that in his post-game press conference. Let's hear from JG.
Us against everybody mentality, how tight this group is, how close we are. That comes out in full force on the road, and our culture, how prideful we are and what we want to do. And then also, our fans have shown up to road games and have made a difference, made it feel like semi-home games, and that's important.
You're muted, Jeff.
That's the crazy thing, is the only 2 losses they have are at home. They're undefeated on the road.
Yeah,
which I did not have that on my bingo card. I mean, going into the season, we were all like, they'll drop 1 or 2 they'll be undefeated at home. It's actually the opposite. They're undefeated on the road this year.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a kind of a positive. Because if you and again, knock on wood, whatever happens Sunday, going into the playoffs, Dan said, he said it multiple times, hey, if we have to go on the road, we can get that job done. Like we'll play here, we'll play over there. Remember that press conference or that video he had? Like we'll play in the landfill, we'll play anywhere. Like that's legit. This team's like legit 8-0 on the road. And I think since last season, I think the Detroit Lions have the best road record in the NFL at like 84% or something.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like 1 or 2 losses, if that. So yeah, I mean it's 8-0 is just that's ridiculous. That's another franchise record. I mean, hey, the boys keep telling me, hey, you have to do something in the NFL that's never been done before to go win a Super Bowl. This Lions team just keeps breaking records. It's actually over the last 2 seasons, it's insane that NFL, not even just franchise records, like NFL records, they just keep breaking them off. It's just like it's insane. It genuinely is. And 8-0 on the road. I don't know how many teams in the NFL history have done that. I'm sure there's quite a handful, but that's still a big feat, man, in this league, especially.
Seth, appreciate you. He's going into 2025 at 14-2 ain't so bad. Well, Seth, you're right about that. Tom says Neil Rule just put me on blast because I'm concerned about the defense. Yeah, no, there's no.
That's hilarious.
You can come hang out here, Tom, because there's nothing. No, that's okay. You're allowed to be concerned about the defense. I think anyone with a brain would agree with that.
Yeah, I mean,
I
know we're getting into it at some point today. Like we're gonna get into that segment and talk about the defense. I'll just say this, Jeff, and you know what? I'm gonna try and do my best as well, not to be as much of a slappy and just say, hey, like, and I think like Dan Campbell, like these guys going back to the lock or to Allen Park today, right? They're gonna go try and figure something out. And if you're gonna sit here and if there's people around the city of Detroit, you know, that we're sitting here and like our job's to talk, you say, hey, everything's okay, everything's gonna be just fine, defense is just fine. You're lying. Like it's a lie, because like if you're saying that, guess what? Dan Campbell and Aaron Glenn are probably in Allen Park right now, sitting in a meeting room or in a film room, trying to figure out this defense, because there is something wrong with it. It's a fact. Like this defense is not good now. And again, we're getting into it throughout the show. If you want to say, hey, this offense is going to carry you, okay, that's a different discussion. But you can't sit here and tell me to my face or to Jeff's face or someone else's face, hey, this defense is just fine. No, the defense is a problem. Like that's an issue, and everyone in the NFL knows it. They were saying it on the broadcast last night, and I'm sure Dan Campbell, I saw his wife post a video or a picture today. They got coffee he got in at 7 a.m. They grabbed coffee at 8, and Dan went straight to the practice facility. And I guess what? Their number one thing that his worry is right now, again, is that secondary and that pass rush. Is that defense. You're not beating the Minnesota Vikings. You're not beating the Bills. You're not beating the Chiefs doing what you did last night. And I think that's fair. I don't think that's a bad thing to say. It's a good thing, because now you know you need to address it.
Yeah, I think it doesn't do anyone any justice if you're going to sit there and live in denial. If you're going to just sit there, no, I can't. No, the defense is fine. Defense is fine. Okay, that's fine. But anyone, again, who's been watching knows that the injuries, it is what it is. This defense has been struggling. The last 3 or 4 games, they've given up 30-plus points. Obviously, the offense has exploded in all those games. And you're going to need them to continue to do that. That's basically what it is. And Dan talked about resting players, which we had that discussion on the pregame. Obviously, when it came down to it, they didn't rest anyone. They had to play the entire game because it was close. But here's Dan Campbell. He kind of spoke about the players and some of the resting narratives. But here's Dan Campbell on that whole debacle. Let's hear from him.
On my mind, you know, I mean, I thought a lot about it. You know, I thought about it leading up to the game. I thought about it last night. I told the staff, but I ended up settling on the right thing to do was play these guys, and because we owed it to the team, you know, and it was just one of those positions we were in. It's just hard to say who you're going to sit, and it's not fair to ask guys to play that haven't been prepared to play, you know? So yeah, that was tough. And I think the biggest thing is there was things we wanted to do better than we did last week. And we did. We cleaned a lot of things up offensively. I thought defensively, we talked about getting takeaways. We got takeaways. And so that'll always serve you well going into the next week. And look, there was never going to be anything, you know, we knew what this is. You're out on the West Coast, you go, hey, man, it's all good. That's what we do. You know what I mean? This is what we do. Like, we love it hard. And this is our deal right now. So we're looking forward to this, everything about this week.
Speaking of, He's I love Dan's talk. He's like, we love this. We absolutely love this. And you know what? There is some truth. I think Dan's very real, right? Fans think they try to think logically, but it's not really logically when you say, well, just rest players. Like, it sounds easy to say it out loud. And you're like, oh, yeah, just rest players. But Dan's looking at it from like multiple different angles. It's like, well, it wouldn't be fair for guys to play that aren't ready to play. And B, these guys want this win. You know, they want to beat the 49ers. It means something to them. And I said this yesterday on the postgame. I think that win was a good mental win heading into the Vikings. You want to leave on a positive note. You beat the 49ers. It was a rematch. I know it wasn't the same 49ers team, but still, you beat the 49ers, and now you got to win going into Minnesota or going into Detroit to face Minnesota. Like, I think the route that Dan Campbell took was not only a route that I agreed with, but the route that he was always going to take. Always.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. I the only thing that I had, and I said it yesterday, I was pretty clear on it. I think there was the two sides of the people that say, hey, rest him for the whole game. And there was the people that are like, hey, play him no matter what. That was where I disagreed, where I was like, hey, one, you don't rest them. You play the guys and you go win the football game. And if you are winning 2 possessions, that was my kind of goal going into the fourth. If you're up 2 possessions, 14 plus, then you can make that decision. Like, it's like the Titans game. When you're up 30, you can pull starters in the fourth quarter. Instead of the up 30, it's like you're up 14 to 21. Okay, now you can pull some starters. I think they're always, like you said, Jeff, I think they're always going to play guys. He said he thought about it a little bit, which is a little interesting to think that Dan actually, even up to last night, or not last night, the night before the game, he even had the thought, and he was like, should we do this? I think it was perfect because I'm pretty big on momentum, and I've been saying that for weeks now, especially heading into the Vikings and the playoffs. You're losing a lot of guys defensively. Offensively, you want to kind of keep this rhythm going. You don't want to mess up this rhythm that's been going all year long. So, yeah, like, to me, it was a no-brainer. Like, you have to play guys to keep them in rhythm. I got my haircut today. Spencer, shout out Spencer if he's watching. He had not Rackster, Spencer the barber, our guy. He had mentioned, he brought up a good analogy. He was like, it's like a car. Like, if you leave a car in the garage for so long, like, it takes a little bit to get that thing going again, or there might be something wrong with there. Or there might, like, you want to keep that thing rolling a little bit and keep driving it. And offensively with Jared Goff, like, Jared's playing at one of the highest levels we've seen. He's probably playing a top 3 level quarterback. He's a top 3 quarterback in the NFL since week 11. You know, he's thrown for 20 interceptions and 20 touchdowns and 1 interception, however many yards it's been since week 11. Like, since that Texans game, he's been playing at a top 3 quarterback level. And you don't want to, like, disrupt that. Just keep that man in a rhythm. Keep all that in a rhythm. Now, defensively, Jeff, the positives, and I know we're going to get into that breakdown, but, like, the resting guys, like Branch and those guys, I like the fact these guys played. Like, you look at Kirby, like, these guys haven't had an interception since the Houston week. And you just saw last night, like, the momentum now with Kirby getting those interceptions and Branch getting out there. Branch, he struggled a bit, but for him to kind of get, like, figure these things out, Terrion to get more reps. Campbell, like, these guys getting reps, I think it's a big thing. And then you got to see the adjustments from the first to second half. And then, like, if you rest guys, guess what? You don't get to see those adjustments. Like, that was the argument I had with you yesterday defensively. It's like, you have to – this is essentially a new defense in week 16 and week 17. Like, these guys need to get reps together in their new spots and all of that. So resting guys would have been all around just a bad move. So I'm glad they did it. I'm glad they rolled with what they were kind of going with. And luckily, knock on wood, like, the biggest thing I think about, Jeff, thank God no one got hurt. Like, when Amon-Ra had that situation where he fell on the sideline, got up limping, I was like, oh, no, please no. Or if a guy was down, it's like you're just, like, holding your breath, like, please no. Like, today is not the day for that.
Right.
Especially with literally every week this year, you've had, like, a major injury, it felt like. In the last 2 weeks, you've stayed clean. So that's very good news.
Chad Fletcher says, Happy New Year's, Jeff. I need an extra O in there.
Come on, Chad.
We love you, Chad. He says, big things coming in 2025 for y'all, man. Appreciate you, Chad, so much.
Appreciate
for that and for tuning in. Tom says, Goff is having the best season as a Lions quarterback has ever had. Well, Dan Campbell spoke about Jared Goff, so let's get to that. And then we have a clip of Jared speaking about his weapon. So here's Dan Campbell on Jared Goff's play.
Lights out today, and he's been playing like this. And just, I feel like he took another step up. which is hard to believe, with where he's been playing, because it is such a high level. So that, and then our playmakers showed up, man. They made plays for us. The O-line protected well, and usually that means you're gonna have success. Like, man, Goff played.
There you go, Dan Campbell. Talking about Jared Goff, yeah, he was slinging it yesterday. And he also talked about his weapons, which that's a whole nother thing. And I saw RG3's tweet. It's like, how do you stop an offense with a 100-yard rusher, 150 all-purpose yards, a 300-yard, 3-touchdown quarterback, and 3 I guess you call Sam LaPorta a receiver, basically, but 3 weapons in the passing game with 5 catches. What?
Do you see that? Am I the only one that sees that?
Oh my God!
I was like, Jeff, I didn't know if I thought I was going crazy for a second. I felt like I was in like a fever dream or something. Coach Walk, man, this man shows nothing but love. Shout out.
Oh,
Coach
hold
Walk.
on, Coach Walk. Yeah, this guy, I think he has the most stock, I think, in this company. He says, "Happy New Year, boys!" To all you haters that come to this podcast from other states on the teams, have that same energy if your team loses. Skull fuckers and bears slappies. You know who you are. You're jealous because you want to be us. That's why you're here. Coach Walk,
Happy
we love
New
you.
Year's, man.
Appreciate you so much, man. This guy, we don't deserve him. We don't. We do not deserve him. And to all we've had a lot of Vikings fans come in here, to Coach's point.
Yeah.
And I do like the banter. I mean, we got Damon, who's a Bears fan. I kind of like this, where we have like other fan bases communicating. But you got to understand, you're outnumbered heavily. There's a lot of Lions fans in here, so you got to come correct, and you got to be ready. That's what it is. We even have "fuck the Vikings" emoji, the emotes, or the people can put those in the chat too. We got boom. I like this little community. I like the community we're building here at Crunch Time Sports.
Yeah, I mean, I will say this. I think at least in my mind, like a vision in my mind is that in the next couple of years, man, every fan base in the NFL is in here and chirping each other. I think that's like Lions play this team. Every fan base around the country knows, like, hey, in Detroit, there's Crunch Time. I'm going to go to their chat. Like that's what I want. So it's sick to see other fan base. Shout out to, Devin Adams too. I mean, hey, it's all friendly banter, man. It's a good fun and games, man. That's why, I said it to start the show. This is why I love the game of football. I love sports, because you get stuff like this and you get to go at it with rivals. And I wouldn't probably say the Vikings are a rival, but yeah,
And we get people like Coach Walk just giving back to the fellas for Christmas and for New Year's. Man, we love Coach Walk, man. And we love all you guys too tuning in. We appreciate it on a Tuesday morning, New Year's Eve. Let's get to Jared talking about his weapons, because he does have a lot of those.
You have 4 players with 1,000 scrimmage yards on the season. You're the first team to ever do that in NFL history.
Wow, cool.
How fun is it to play quarterback when you've got that many guys that can make plays for you? Great example was tonight.
Yeah, it's really cool. And the 4, I'm sure, is Demo, Gibbs, Saint, and JMO, right? And then like LaPorta's as good as he gets at tight end, and Tim's done a hell of a job too. And like we've got a good group and a very unselfish group, which is the best part about it. And those guys just want to see each other succeed. They just want to win. But yeah, to do something like that's very cool, and we're proud of that.
Yeah, I mean, I will say in the offense, I guess I'll ask, I mean, is there actually a defense out there that can slow this offense down? I mean, I don't think so. Now, and I said this yesterday in the postgame, it's not about, do I think there's defenses that can just slow this offense down, because it's going to be hard to do that. The only way this offense will be slowed down is if you get a game like you did in Houston where they beat themselves, where they have to beat themselves, which can happen. But to answer the question, do I think a defense is out there? I mean, unless you have an historically great defense, to match this historically great offense, no, I don't. I don't think that, could you force the Lions into making mistakes? Yeah. Could they beat themselves with penalties? Yes. Turning the ball over, not running the ball effectively, like they went through a 2-game stretch doing it for some reason. Yeah. But no, I don't think there's a defense. I mean, I'm looking at the NFL. I mean, look at some of the top teams, Booner. There's not really like an elite defense right now. There's
Yeah.
good defense. Like Kansas City has a really good defense, but it's not like elite, like they're going to be able to just stop the Lions. Same with the Bills, same with the Ravens, obviously. So to answer the question, even in the NFC, I mean, the Eagles, I think, is the best matchup, the offense to defense. And I think the Eagles, they have the best defense in the league, in my opinion. I think even then, do I think they could slow the Lions down? Like, they can make it tough on them, but this offense, man, can beat you in so many different ways. They can beat you in different ways.
I find it hard to believe right now. Like, and this is the convo that we keep going back and forth on. Like, can they win the Super Bowl in the defense? And I just in looking at the sports books, and you know me, Jeff, I look at the sports books, see where the odds are at. Where like, hey, how does Vegas think that the NFL is going to kind of work out? And right now, they have the Chiefs as favorites to win the Super Bowl, and they have the Lions at number 2 now. Like, it's right back to where it was a couple weeks ago. And I think the reason behind that is it's this offense. And I said it on the show last night. It's like, all right, let's look around the league real quick. Is there a football team in the NFL right now that typically, like in years past, you see the Patriots, the Chiefs, where like, hey, that team's just that much better than everyone else? Like, there isn't a team out there right now this year. It's the same thing with the MVP race, Jeff, where it's like this right now, there's so many guys, but typically there's like, hey, Jared Goff would win an MVP in a different year. This year is so wide open when it comes to the Super Bowl and the NFC. Like, everyone's going to go into the playoffs thinking they have a chance to win or go to a Super Bowl and win it. And I think that's the advantage where the Lions have offensively, to where, yeah, their defense might give up 27 points, 30 points, and maybe even more versus good offense. But offensively, like I read the stat yesterday. It's an incredible stat. The first team in NFL history to have, I think, let me see what it is. I'm going to try and pull it up here. I just had it. First team in NFL history, 5th game with 40 points and 0 turnovers. Most in the season in NFL history. Like, 5th game, Jeff, with 40-plus points and no turnovers. Typically, like, you're looking at it, hey, you score 40, a couple turnovers. You have things like, no, 5 games this year. You played 16. That's like almost 40%. That's like 35% of your games. You're scoring 40-plus, and you're not even giving up a turnover. Not one. Not giving up a turnover. Like, that's incredible. That's something that, like, obviously no one's ever seen in NFL history. This offense is probably a top 5 offense of all time when they're rolling. And I think you get to a point, and I saw the chat talking about it earlier, like, the Lions just really, like, if their defense can hold teams to 30 or less, or like 30, 27, this Lions offense should take care of business. Like, they should. And like you said, Jeff, the only person and the only thing that can stop this offense, it's not another defense. It's themselves, like, turning the ball over, doing this. Like, if they go through a stretch of football like they did versus Houston, where they had 5 interceptions, or they just shoot themselves in the foot, that's the only way this offense gets stopped. That's it. There is not a single defense that you can say, hey, that defense will step up and stop this Lions team, this Lions offense this week. Like, it won't happen. Like, the Vikings, they won't do it this week. If the Vikings want to win, they have to put 30-plus points up to win.
Yeah,
on
I
Sunday
agree with
night.
that.
And I was actually looking at it. They really haven't scored 30-plus points a lot this year. So it's like, that's where you start getting into it, to where you have to look at also, like, yeah, our defense is bad, but you have to look at offenses that can keep up with this offense, because there's no stopping it. Like RG3 said, RG3 finds it hard to believe that when you have a running back like Jahmyr Gibbs, you have an 2,000-yard wide receivers that play at an extremely high level, one of the best tight ends in the NFL, the number 1 offensive line in the NFL, and you have a quarterback that's playing at an MVP level. It probably would win MVP any other year but this year. It's impossible to stop, and you probably have the best play caller in the entire NFL, and that's almost including head coaches, maybe just not Andy Reid, and that's it. And like currently, you could say probably the best play caller and offensive coordinator in the entire NFL. So, like, it's not like you just have 1 or 2 of those things, which usually good offenses, Jeff, they have just like, hey, they have a great quarterback. They have a great OC. They have a great run game. They have a great pass game. How often in the NFL do you really see all 5, 6, 7 of these different things all into one basket? And you're like, that's like your perfect offense. Like, if you're like, hey, I'm going to go to Madden, I'm going to trade for guys and make a perfect offense. That's what the Detroit Lions are right now. And on top of that, like, I heard, who was it? Who was on the radio this morning? Hey, who does the show with Costa? Jansen.
Jansen.
He had mentioned,
yep.
And he's played in the NFL for so long, and he had mentioned, he said people need to stop calling these trick plays that Ben Johnson's doing. They're not trick plays anymore, because this is part of their identity and their offense. Like the hook and ladder, the reverses, all these different things that they're doing. That's who they are. They're one of the best offenses in NFL history, Jeff. And it's like, that's part of it. That's now their identity, is doing plays like that. And there are teams in the NFL and there are offenses that are in top 5, top 10 of all time who could not do what the Lions are doing offensively right now. They just can't, because they never had all of these things in one. They might have had a Randy Moss, or they might have had a Calvin Johnson, or they might have had a greatest running backs of all time, but they didn't have all these things in one. And I think that's where, like, Lions fans, you should be excited about. Like, defensively, we're going to talk about that. That is a problem. But on that side of the ball, like, that's what gives Lions fans hope. Because imagine if you just had a little step down from this, you're probably not even talking Super Bowl right now. But the fact that you have this offense and what they're doing and the way they're buzzing and humming right now, it's like, hey, you have no choice but to talk Super Bowl, because this team, if they get hot, like, again, 5 games this year with 40-plus points and 0 turnovers. And no one's ever done that. No one. And there is no signs of these guys slowing down. Like, again, since week 11, Jared Goff has been a top 3 quarterback in the NFL, and he has not shown a sign of slowing down. Has not. Jeff, I told you last season when he went out there, that stretch with the Packers, the Bears, had those turnovers, and everyone was like, oh, the sky's falling. After that Texans game, what did we talk about? We said, hey, he has some of those slumps once in a while, but after that, he learns in a season, and he sees, okay, we need to move on from that, fix the mistakes, boom. He fixed them, and since then, the man's thrown for 20 touchdowns and 1 interception. That's incredible.
Crazy.
That is insane. And if he's playing at this level, guys, for the next 5 or 6 games, like, a team's going to just have to outscore you. Like, the Lions, if they lose in the playoffs, guess what? It's going to be like 48-42. Like, that's going to be the score. And that's just the way it's going to have to be. And to me, it's like there's not a lot of teams in the NFC that could probably go out there and put 40-plus up. And it's when you get to the Super Bowl, man, the Bills, the Chiefs, those, not even the Chiefs. Chiefs haven't even scored 30 all year. But the Bills, scary.
Yeah, I will say this. It's a perfect as the offense is constructed, it is well constructed. Like the point you made about having a Calvin Johnson, which, you have a Hall of Fame receiver is one thing, but when you have the complement of weapons that they all complement each other, Amon-Ra, one of the best slot receivers, and you have Sam LaPorta, one of the best tight ends, like 2 guys that will dominate the middle of the field. Oh, yeah, you have Jameson, who's one of the fastest players in the league, who can take the top off. And then, oh, yeah, you have a running back in Jahmyr Gibbs, who's not only extremely fast, but can also catch the ball to the backfield and get you 150 all-purpose yards. And, oh, yeah, you have the best offensive line. So, like, they have a perfectly constructed offense. Now, unless there's injuries, knock on wood, there's nothing that, even the Demont injury, like I said this when it happened, it stinks. I hate it for Demont. You love him to be here, but it's not going to slow this offense down. It's just not. They have Jahmyr Gibbs still. It's not like you're lost Amon-Ra, and even then, like, I think they would still be able to score 20. Like they might not be as explosive 40-point offense, but they have enough to be able to do that. I thought too, Craig Reynolds was a solid RB2 yesterday. I thought Craig was very solid. I want to know what you thought about it. Jamar in the red zone. I don't know if Ben early in the game thought Jahmyr was just allergic to pay dirt, but we got to get this man more in the red zone, or maybe it was just resting him. I don't know why specifically you do it in the red zone when you need to score points, but he ended up scoring anyway. What'd you make of the Jamar Jefferson experience, maybe the Craig Reynolds experience? You didn't see as much Vaki, but what'd you think of that RB2 role, keeping these guys fresh? Ben kind of talked about, right? Keeping these guys fresh. What'd you think about it yesterday?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a huge deal to make sure that, hey, you're not giving Jahmyr Gibbs 40 touches a game, to make sure he's staying healthy, because you do need him. Like, when the playoffs come around, have been pretty consistent on this. When the playoffs come around, yeah, then you can, I think that's when you start turning the table on Jahmyr Gibbs. If Demont's not back, you say, hey, Gibbs, like, we need you. We saw it last year a little bit. I know we had Demont, but like, you kind of, hey, unleash the beast with Jahmyr Gibbs in the playoffs. I think the sense was yesterday trying to get Craig Reynolds and Jamar Chase not Jamar Chase. Imagine if we had Jamar Chase, Jamar Jefferson kind of going for the Sunday game versus the Vikings. And I think, like, on Sunday night, as much as people may not want to see it, and Lions fans say, no, don't do it, like, you're going to see more of Craig Reynolds. Like, he's obviously not the Demont. Like, he doesn't have the, that quickness and that power that Demont has, because Demont's a top 15 back in the NFL when he's at this highest level. But he gives you kind of Jahmyr Gibbs. Hey, Gibbs can't play every offensive snap. Like, he can't. You can't let that happen. So, like, who's going to go in for him? It's going to be Craig. And, like, I saw Craig lined up on the outside. I saw him in the slot. I saw him lined up in the backfield. Like, they were moving Craig around a lot. And I think, when his number was called, guess what? Craig Reynolds stepped up. So, going into Sunday night, I don't know about you, Jeff. Hey, I'm comfortable with Craig being RB2 and getting touches. Now, the Jamar Jefferson thing in the red zone, I thought it was odd. I'm with you on that. Like, I would have rather, to be honest, Jeff, I would have rather those carries go to Craig Reynolds to get Craig, like, see what Craig can do inside the 10. And I think Craig's a bowling ball type D-Mont player to where, like, we've seen him in training camp. He's got the size. Like, he's kind of built like D-Mont a little bit, it feels like, to where it's like, hey, you can get him going downhill. And I know that's what they were trying to do with Jamar Jefferson. But after the first time, you're like, okay, that's probably not going to work. Second time, yeah, not going to work. And then third, fourth time, you're like, all right, what are we doing here? So I just think, like, the Craig Reynolds, I would rather see the Craig Reynolds experience, in the red zone, inside the 10 instead of the Jamar Jefferson. And listen, this isn't anything against Jamar Jefferson. I think it was just what we saw yesterday. I'm more confident in Craig Reynolds being that RB2 and getting those touches than Jamar Jefferson. And I think that's just a simple fact at the end of the day, which I'm fine with. And then once D-Mont comes back, because here, knock on wood again, I think we need to start having the conversations. If Sunday night doesn't go the way we want it to, right, you're probably not getting D-Mont back for the wild card game. That's going to be the divisional round. You're going to need someone in that wild card game. And I kept saying it last night, Jeff. I think they're getting some of these running backs ready just in case they need them in the playoffs. Because even if D-Mont's not 100%, you might need some of these guys to get some snaps. And you can't just be like, hey, Craig, we know we didn't play all season, but hey, first snaps of the year, we're going to get you here in the playoffs in a wild card round. Good luck. Go out there. Let's see what you can do. Like, no, you need to get the guy reps and get him kind of in the system offense going. I like if I rated Craig Reynolds, and obviously his skill is a little different. Like, I'm not grading his skill out of 10 to where the 10 is 200 all-purpose yards like Jahmyr Gibbs.
Right.
His 10 to me is like 50-ish all-purpose yards. I'd give him like a 7 or 8 as a backup yesterday. I thought he was very solid.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm comfortable with Craig Reynolds. So me and you align with that. I think he's more than capable of taking, some carries away from Gibbs. He's going to get you a couple yards of carry. He had one reception that he took for like 14 yards or something, 13 yards. It was nice.
26.
What was it?
I think he had one for 26 yards.
26, that's what it was. So it was even more, almost double what I said. So yeah, Craig I'm comfortable with. Jamar, I think, he's not better than Craig Reynolds. I'll say that. No. Craig's right there. He's shown they're different. I think a little different style of runner from what I've seen, but Craig's been better when he's gotten the ball. So I will say that.
Yeah, even in the run game, Craig, dude, going out there 4.5 yards a carry. Like,
yeah, you'll take it.
That's big time, especially for a guy who's like your RB3, RB4. Like, that's huge. That's huge. And I think we saw the Sione Vaki thing probably not going to come to fruition, like, until probably next year or the year after. But that's fine with me. Like, I think Craig is fine. Like, I just want guys that we can trust. And it's not that I don't trust Vaki. I think it's just Craig's like he's a solid piece. Can I say something too real quick on the offense? I want to get your thoughts.
Yep.
Does it now feel like, and I had this conversation again with Spencer this morning. I think I mentioned it last week too. Sam LaPorta, it felt like all season long he was dealing with an injury. And now all of a sudden, over the last 3 or 4 weeks, you now have all-pro Sam LaPorta back. And I think if you go back and watch film, Jeff, probably weeks 1 to 12 to 13, it was clear like he wasn't running around right. It felt like you could see that, hey, it's just you're not getting 100% Sam LaPorta. And you put that film side by side up from like yesterday or the last 2 or 3 weeks to the first half of the season, I think there's like a big difference. And he looks like he's like back. And I think he was dealing with something that wasn't really put out there in the public. And I think now that's just my theory. I have no confirmation. I haven't heard anything. I have no sources, nothing. I just have a theory that maybe remember the hamstring in training camp he was dealing with, didn't really play it during training camp at all. I think maybe that might have lingered into the season. But now he looks fresh. He looks good. And the fact that you already had an offense doing what they were doing when Sam LaPorta wasn't playing well, and now he's playing at an all-pro level again, that has to be scary for defenses to see, because now like it adds that layer. Like before, hey, you didn't have to deal with Sam LaPorta for a while because he wasn't producing.
and like you could work that defense around and you could figure it out because you knew, hey, Sam LaPorta's probably not a big piece. He is a big piece now. He is a big piece. Like you have to know where he is at all times now going forward. And he looks extremely healthy. He had a big game. He should have had 2 touchdowns yesterday. And he 6 catches, 64 yards, a touchdown, should have had a second touchdown. But just even looking at the week before, 4 catches, 43 yards, 7 catches, 111 yards, 5 catches, 54 yards. Like Sam LaPorta's right there now. I mean, he's going to have over 750 yards on the season. And that was a down year for him. That's crazy.
Didn't Sam LaPorta miss a game?
He may have. I'm not 100% sure, but he may have. I think there was an injury going on, Jeff. Maybe I'm crazy, and maybe that's just like me putting on what's that? What do you and Klotz say? Putting on a conspiracy theory guy.
No, the wizard, the wizard hat.
Yeah, throwing on my wizard hat, but maybe people in the chat agree with me. I don't know, but it just felt like there was something going on with Sam LaPorta, and it just didn't feel right for all year until a couple weeks back, and it was like, hey, we got him back.
Yeah, so Steve in the chat, appreciate it. I think he did miss a game, but regardless, I mean, let's say 15 games out of a possible 16 at this point. He has 660 yards, 7 TDs, and he's averaging more yards a catch than he did last year. So you look at this year, 53 catches for Sam, 76 targets. Okay, 76 targets. Last year he had 120. So he's working with less targets, and he has about 200 yards short of what he had last year, missing a game. Like he's been big time the last couple of games. So Sam LaPorta is back. I think he's just gotten healthier, which is pretty normal he started off with the injury, so that's good. You're getting Sammy back, and I will say I see this comment here, and I do want to talk about the defense, but. And we'll get into the conversation. I have a clip of Dan talking about Anzalone, but Jimmy says, I'm on a delay with this video, but you're going too easy on Terrion. He's a bust. He's not getting any better as the season goes. He's getting worse. Well, I will say.
I hate that word. I'm sorry. I hate that word. Year 1, I hate that word. Bust?
Yeah, I wouldn't say he's a bust right now.
I hate that word.
Yeah, you can't call him a bust now. What I will say is he's a corner that was previously a safety. Okay. You can see watching him, the way he moves, he's in the right position, not against the 49ers, but typically when you're watching him, you're like, this guy is kind of relatively in the right position. He's just making these small mistakes that are correctable. Now, yesterday, he was getting torched. Yesterday, I think that's probably not the example I would use for the whole year. But there has been down moments for Terrion Arnold. But you have to think about it like this, from our experience watching corners, and you know this, Booner, not every guy, usually corners struggle their first year. If a guy comes out and he's elite, that means he's going to be special, like a Quinya Mitchell. He's going to be very good, okay? It's obvious. But there's others that take a year or two to get into their own, and that might be Terrion Arnold right now. Yeah. Now, if he's like this next year, we can have a conversation. But right now, I'm with you. I'm not going, he's a bust.
Yeah, the bust word always, that I hate it, just because it's like, okay, let's get to year 2, 3, and then if it's like, hey, we could start talking the conversation, the value of where he was picked, where he's at as a first round, late first. I think there's just a lot of different variables to kind of take into place there when it comes to a guy like Terrion Arnold. I'm with you though, Jeff. And we've been pretty consistent on this, I think. Even when we were talking corners during the draft process. Hey, when you draft a corner in the first round, obviously you're drafting in the 20s. So you're not expecting him to be Jeff Okudah, who's your number 2 overall pick. Like, you're not going to give him those, but like, hey, yeah, you're using a first round draft pick on him. So you do want to see some sort of light and you want to see something good out of him. But the corner position is it is the toughest position in football. And especially in the NFL, you're at a disadvantage versus the best players in football versus, the Jamar Chases, the Justin Jeffersons, the Amon-Ra St. Browns. Like, you're going up against the elite of the elite and you're in a disadvantage to start the play. And that's what it is. And like, it's hard to find an elite corner. And I think it takes a lot of guys, Jeff, to your point. And I don't think people realize this enough. It takes a lot. It takes a long time to become elite in the NFL. Like you see Sauce Gardner. Remember, he had those first 2 years. Well, look at him this year. He's getting a lot of hate, not playing well. People are going at him. And it's like, this is a tough position to kind of get down. And Jeff, I'll even say this, Quinyon Mitchell is me and yours. We had him as our CB1 in the NFL draft. We loved him. I said it a million times. If he wasn't playing in the MAC and playing at Toledo and he was playing at Bama, he would be a top 5 pick just because of the views, who he's going up against, and he was just that good. He would have still been that good. But you got to also take into account, and Jeff, I think you will love this because this is kind of fits your narrative a little bit. Look at Philadelphia Eagles pass rush. Look what they do to quarterbacks. And you're like, okay, as a corner,
that's
as
fair.
a corner,
That's
it's
fair.
tough to guard. You're already starting at a disadvantage. You're already in a spot. And then as a rookie, and now Carlton's down, and now you're corner one, and your sole responsibility is essentially the best wide receiver on the other team week after week after week. And this was probably his, he struggled in this game, and he got beat. He got eaten up, everything. It was tough. But it's like, hey, this was his week 2 of being like that dude on that defense and having to step up. And you have no pass rush. Like in the first half, you had 3 pressures on Brock Purdy. 3 pressures. So it's tough. Like that's tough. You go look at Quinyon Mitchell. They have one of the best pass rushes in the NFL. The Eagles do.
Yep.
And it's like, okay, the quarterbacks are, they don't have that much time versus Quinyon. Quinyon needs a boom, boom, split second decision there. And you need to make that play. With Terrion, it's like, hey, you got to guard for 10 seconds or 5 to 7 seconds instead of below 5 seconds because the quarterback is sitting in the pocket for 10 seconds back there, and you're getting all the time of the day. So it's hard for me to it's really hard for me to judge Terrion solely and say he's a bust based off of the scenarios he's been in. What I take into account, and Jeff, maybe you don't, I do take into account a lot with the rookie corner what their coaches are saying about them and how they approach it. Because you can clearly see guys like, Emmanuel Forbes in Washington when he was a rookie, certain guys like not getting snaps, coaches talking about them. Some coaches are honest. They'll say like, hey, he's struggling. He's doing this. The one thing that Dan, and listen, we've seen Dan shoot players down and say things like, hey, well, this guy needs to step up. This guy needs to do better. The one thing with Terrion he's very consistent of is, hey, we love some of the things that he's showing. Like he is showing some high level things that he can be one of the best corners in the league. And when you hear that out of your coaches, I know maybe they're trying to give him confidence, this or that. They have always been very, very honest to the media about stuff like that. Remember, who was it in the training camp when he just straight up one of the corners, he just said, hey, he needs to be better. Like he's going to lose his spot. And he had mentioned that. I think it might have been Stephen Gilmore. And he was like, hey, he needs to step up or he's done. Like this is his last chance. So he's typically honest, and I think Terrion, he's been that all year long. Like, hey, he's a rookie, he's learning, but when you see those spurts and you see him have those good moments are like, hey, he could be one of the best in the league. But it's about doing it for like a continuous period of time. I think like until year 2, maybe even year 3, when you get a pass rush and you start getting the defense kind of fully healthy and together. Like think about Terrion with Hutch and Zadarius Smith next year.
Well, we saw him with Hutch this year. He was getting PIs.
Well, that was the learning experience though, to where instantly in the NFL, boom, he's getting the flags. Guess what? He learned from that, moved on from that. Now he's not getting PIs. Now it's like, okay, now you need to figure out how to, there's little things I think that you continuously learn. And I think by the time next year comes around with those pass rushers, I would say Terrion's going to be just fine. I'm not genuinely worried.
Yeah, it's not. And again, does having a defensive line help? Yes, it does. Yeah. But I think Terrion, if let's say if they were healthy, I still think Terrion, and I'm not trying to diss him, but I think he would still be having moments. He's just not ready yet, and that's okay. Next year, if he's and he's by the way a number 1 corner because he wasn't supposed to be. Because you're supposed to have Carlton Davis, so that made it even more awkward. But yeah, he has not been good all year. He's had moments that have been like, oh, wow. Or you see him in coverage at times, and you're like, oh, I like this out of Terrion. And then you see, oh, he's out of position. Like yesterday, I don't think I think every pass that was thrown at him was completed. I mean, I just checked. It was he was 6 for 6 on 40 coverage snaps, 6 for 6 for 94 yards on Terrion Arnold.
Got to make a play at some point.
Yeah. Like Amik Robertson had a good day. 6 targets at Amik, 2 receptions.
Amik, I want to throw this out about Amik too. And this was the thing defensively. I guess we're in defense now, which I love because I think this is where we can really break things down, Jeff. But Amik, like this was his second week. I know he's played outside before. his second week moving outside, week 1 versus the Bears, Dan was like, I loved what Amik did. And now back-to-back weeks, Amik, boom, loved what he did. Maybe you start looking at Amik and like, hey, let's get him on some. And I know the side, I know all of that. But like, hey, if he's playing better than Terrion, hey, match him up. Do you think Amik could play up against Justin Jefferson? I don't know.
No.
Don't think he could, but do you trust Terrion versus Justin Jefferson?
I think I don't
Do you
trust either, but
who would you have to pick? Who do you think would make a play?
Neither. But I would no, just because Justin's like 6'2", you know, what is
makes
like
it makes smaller. I'm just trying to think of a way here because
I'd put him on Jordan Addison. I'd put him.
Okay, I love that. I don't know like Carlton Davis. We've had this conversation with Carlton Davis when we talked to Steven about the Bucks. He said the one good thing about Carlton Davis is big body receivers, big dudes. He is elite at going up against them. And I know that Justin Jefferson, we already went up against him, but like that's why you have Carlton Davis on this team, is to guard guys like DJ Moore, Justin Jefferson, the Keenan Allens. Like that's why you have them. And going into a Sunday night game without Carlton, who's going to be on Justin Jefferson? Like don't know. I'm not comfortable with that conversation right now, to be honest.
No, it's not a comfortable conversation.
Just let Amik just get out. I don't care how small Amik is. Just let him go there, talk. Let him talk to him. And let him just disrupt. He's going to get his yards no matter what. At least try and rattle him a little bit.
Now, another player that is coming back is Alex Anzalone. And here's Dan Campbell on Thor returning, huh? Come on, let's get some Anzo back.
See, I mean, he's doing well. I mean, he's close. He's really close. Okay. Thanks.
He's close. Very close. Alex Anzalone to returning. And I'm just being honest, and this is going to help. I think his return will help this player. That's Jack Campbell. I think it's going to help Jack and help this defense because Jack's he's doing a lot, trying to do a lot out there. I mean, yesterday it was the whole defense. It wasn't just Jack, but he wasn't good in coverage. Neither was Jalen Reeves-Maybin. Like they were kind of getting worked. Brian Branch wasn't good yesterday. Excuse me. But Alex Anzalone is still their best cover linebacker. You know, so I'm excited to get Anzo back for that, especially this week with TJ Hawkinson. And honestly, these yards after catch plays, I think Anzo will help out with that. You know, I think Anzo helps. I think I like Anzo. I really do. I think he's a solid linebacker. I'm just curious. To me, there's bigger problems than just Anzo coming, but to fix. Like I'm looking at this defensive line. Like, how can we get more pressure? And maybe to what you'll probably bring up is, well, find a way to get Anzo in there and make some plays. Fair, but I think Anzo helps. But I mean, I'm gonna need a whole bus of guys coming out, getting off a bus. We need pass rushers, corners. We need we got to start recruiting here. You know, that's what we got to do.
Obviously, I think you're down a lot of people. The Carlton, the Aleem. Yes, you're down, dude.
But Anzo helps.
I'll say this: there's parts of Anzo here that I think people aren't realizing a little bit. Number one,
hold on, talk to me, Boone.
In coverage, obviously, in coverage, Alex Anzalone is big. As a playmaker, he's big. I think there's two things, Jeff, that I'm going to bring up here, and I hope you're on my side with this, and I hope I'm not crazy for thinking this. Number one, he's and I like Jack Campbell has done a great job as your green dot.
Yes.
I think there's something with experience at that position where Anzo is the heart of your defense. He's the guy communicating to everyone. He's calling out different coverages. He's changing stuff. He's doing this. I think it's a very, very overlooked thing of what Anzo does as a vet. He's been in this league, 8 or 9 years now. He's been under AG for so long. Jack, this is his first. Last year was his first year. This was his first year as the green dot, as the kind of heart of that defense. You know, calling defenses, changing different things, all of that. And listen, I was the one that said, "Hey, Jack Campbell is going to pass up Anzo." Like as a player, he is. But I think when you look at the experience of an 8-year NFL career or 7, whatever it is, you can't make that up. Like Jack's going to only learn and get experience better. When you see certain guys in the backfield, if you see the one big thing too, and Jeff, I'm going to clip it and we'll get it at some point for this show, at some point this week. AG had mentioned one thing that he saw. There was a linebacker on his team when he was playing that he said was a Hall of Fame linebacker. It might have been in New Orleans when he was coaching. There is a guy, he said, when they would be in when they would be in practice versus Drew Brees, that he would sit there, Drew Brees would audible, the middle linebacker, boom, he would make an audible. And they would go back and forth at practice, pre-snap, going back and forth, and it was a chess game. And he said that is what Alex Anzalone turned into the last year or two. And in the offseason, I remember in training camp, I think we listened to it on the show, he said Alex Anzalone is probably one of the best linebackers at pre-snap right now in the NFL. One of the best. He said he's one of the best he's ever seen in the NFL. So the fact that you're getting a guy who pre-snap is going to be able to change things up, he's going to be able to counter what the quarterback is changing. Like, oh, Sam Darnold, if he's playing this week, oh, Sam Darnold, go ahead, audible. Guess what Alex Anzalone is going to do?
Audible back.
Boom. He's going to move a chess piece. And I think that's a big missing piece since Anzo's gone down defensively, Jeff. And I know, like, yeah, you're missing players, but typically, what do you say when you miss players? You have to scheme and you have to find ways to get pressure, to beat the defense. You have to start thinking and using your brain to win instead of talent. And I think that's something, you lose Anzo, you can't do that at that high of a level anymore. You can't. So all of a sudden, Anzo's back. I know we're talking about, hey, just the play-wise a little bit. No, I think there's a bigger gap there when you're talking about him kind of controlling that defense. And, hey, that defensive line's been struggling. Guess who's behind him telling them where to go and what gaps and what to shoot and to change and do that? That's Alex Anzalone. And we haven't had that. And that's nothing at Jack Campbell. He just hasn't been in the NFL long enough to be able to get that down. Anzo has been, and AG brought it up in the offseason and said, hey, he's one of the best I've ever seen in the NFL ever, be able to go back and forth with the quarterback and change plays and counter a quarterback. And number two, Jeff, I'll say this. I know you brought up the point. You said, hey, Booner, I know what you're going to say. Get Anzo to the quarterback. Not even just get Anzo to the quarterback, Jeff. Now Anzo's on the field. You can send other guys. You can send Jack Campbell now. Like, you can send Ben Neiman now. You can send Trevor. Like, you can trust Anzo, and now you can start sending guys that you haven't been able to send before. Germ you can send now. Like, Germ was in coverage. Dude, Germ played 70% of the snaps. He was in coverage 1,000,000 times yesterday. Instead of Germ being in coverage, guess what? Get him at that Sam spot coming off the edge, and now let Anzo go in coverage, and let Germ and Jack Campbell go off the edge. Like, it changes everything. And I get it, Jeff. Like, when you do look at the production of just Anzo, yeah, it's not a lot. But I think defensively, like, there are just certain players on these teams. I think I almost wanted to put Anzo at that last year, to where it's like, hey, if you lose this guy, like, it's big. Like, I think Hutch is there. I think defensively, when you do break it down, like, your quarterback on defense is Alex Anzalone. Yeah. And I think, like, you're now getting your quarterback back on defense. I know, Jeff, you're worried about this defense. I think this if he comes back, and you can call me crazy in a couple of weeks if nothing changes, I don't care. You know me, I'll sit here and take it. Maybe I'll still argue with you, but I'll still take it. I think there's a bigger thought process behind this Anzo thing than we're going to give credit for, or people are giving it credit for.
And I'm not going to sit here and hope that I'm right. You know, I'm not going to. I don't want to be that guy where I'm rooting for failures to say I'm right. It's not about that. And honestly, Boone, good job. You made a lot of great points. You did about Anzo's impact. And I'm not even going to honestly argue back and say no, you're wrong. Because everything you said is true. His impact is I'm curious, especially this game against the Vikings. Anzo played in the last game, and he played really well in that game. So having Anzo back is huge. I would rather have Anzo than Germ, clearly. When you watch Germ yesterday, it wasn't fair to him. He just came back, and he got thrown and played a ton of snaps. And it's like, all right, cover this guy, cover that guy. Like, Germ's a very good special teamer. He's not playing for a reason, you know, when Anzo's here. You know, it's in all due respect to him. So it's going to be nice to have him back. It's going to help the defense. Now, my big thing, and we talked about, is like, should Lions fans be concerned about the defense? Yes. Now, when we talked about it after Aleem and Carlton were ruled out in that Bills game for the rest of the year, essentially. Aleem for sure, Carlton kind of, but I'm certainly he's out for the year. We'll see. And then Demont expected to come back at some point. But all the defensive injuries piling up, I talked about how I felt the Lions, they have a pulse. They have a very light pulse. With just my hope that they can win a Super Bowl. It turned for me from they're going to win to, like, after Hutch went down, it was like, I still think they can win. I still think, maybe not as confident, but I still think they can do it. And then once the more injuries started piling up, I'm like, man, now I'm like, I hope they can do it. I really do. I'm just worried. Does Anzo help? Yes. But I have to see this team next week against the Vikings. It's a good test for them. I think the Vikings are a very good team. You were right about the Vikings. I respect them. I think they're a good team. I think they're still one of the better NFC teams. I mean, it's the Eagles, it's the Lions, and it's the Vikings. So if you can beat the Vikings, and I want to see how this defense looks, then you see what happens. Because if you get the 1 seed, you get the bye week, and then we'll see who they face after that. You'll have to win, 3 games to get to the Super Bowl. And it comes down to kind of who the matchups are in the playoffs. But the defense, to me, next week, I want to see Aaron Glenn in the second half. He found different ways, and you bring this up all the time, to be able to get to the quarterback. Now, for Aaron Glenn, it's really weighing who should we send versus who do we need in coverage. Like, are we going to send Brian Branch or do we need him? You know, they have to just kind of weigh that out. But You got to find creative ways to get to the quarterback, because right now, with Zadarius Smith, Josh Pascal, and Levi Onwuzurike, Zadarius is not someone at this point in his career that can just do it by himself. He's just not. You know, he played with Myles Garrett. If he had Hutch right now, he'd be playing better. I think Lions fans were probably expecting too much out of this guy. You know, and that's why every week we're like, oh, he crapped the bed again. It's like, well, it's like you need Zadarius to, you know, turn back the clock like 5 years and start being active. So I want AG. This is my kind of what I'm looking for, kind of foreshadowing. I want to see them make Sam Darnold uncomfortable. That's the thing, that the Packers did that in the second half, and that's what kind of slowed him down. They got to Sam Darnold, made him uncomfortable. That's what you have to do if you're going to take down some of these great teams in the NFC. If you can't get pressure on Sam Darnold, he's going to carve you up. He's going to carve you up. Same with any quarterback. I mean, you saw Brock Purdy last night. Brock Purdy's having a bad season, and he turned the ball over twice, but Brock was slinging it. I mean, he had a career high in passing yards, 37, whatever it was. I don't even know the exact numbers, but he played well besides the 2 interceptions. Had a rushing touchdown. I got to see more out of these guys. And even this comment, the Single Dad Club, I love this. Pascal, guy that I've been very high on. It's like, where's Pascal at? I mean, what are we doing? We need Pascal to start making more of an impact. Certainly, so that's what I want to see, man. I want to see this get some more pressure, and maybe I'm asking for something that I don't know if they have the personnel to do it consistently, but we'll see. With Anzo coming back, maybe it helps out in that way. But you got to get pressure, man, or else you're never going to be able to cover anybody anyway. I mean, it's just how it is. They had Hutch and Aleem last year, and they still couldn't really – they were giving up a bunch of yards, number 1 receivers, but at least you were getting sacks when you needed them. You know, you ate it. Aleem, they're not getting really any. I mean, Brian had one, and I think Miles Adams had one. It's like, guys, you know, we 3 pressures at half? It's like, that's not going to fly against good teams. You know, the 49ers missed the playoffs. I mean, they're the 49ers. But we're talking about the Vikings, Eagles, hell, Rams. I mean, just random teams in the NFC that you got to face. So that's what I want to see, man. I want to see these guys step up. And DJ Reader, what are you doing? Why are you jumping off sides? Is that something I'm concerned about? No. You know,
I just wanted to throw that in there.
I just want to throw it out there. Like, dude, what are we doing? You know?
I think DJ Reader knows.
He's the last guy.
That's a tough one to get mad at because you're like, it's DJ Reader.
Yeah, he's so good. So I can't really be mad. But you get the point, man. These guys next week, opportunity, I'll say it again, opportunity to bounce back. Now, will they? We'll see. But they have to. Or else Sam Darnold's going to have another 350 yards on you. It's just how it is.
You know what? And I'll say this too, and this isn't a bad thing sometimes. He will have 300 yards. And listen, it was like last year in that final game of the year, Khalil Mullins, or is it Nick Mullins? Sorry,
Nick
Khalil
Mullins.
Khalil
Mullins.
That's not me.
Hey, Michigan's playing well right now.
They're up 16-0 right now for Bama. Hey, Kalen DeBoer, tough look for your guy, man. It's a tough look.
Alabama doesn't even want to play today, huh?
Hey, and by the way, Michigan to beat Ohio State and then potentially Bama to end the season, that's huge. That's like a big step forward. That's
momentum.
Obviously, it's not a successful season if you don't win a natty, but like that's successful for what you were going through. So, great turnaround there for the boys. And you have 13 starters out total, which is crazy. All right, the Lions defense though. Listen, Jeff, this is a thing, and I know we hated it last year. And I've been very consistent on this. I think the Lions offense is that much better this year. to where this year again, and it sucks because you wanted to go into this year with the mindset that you had a better defense, and essentially you're sitting in the same spot defensively as you were last year going into the playoffs. And it's that bend, don't break. Like, we're going to give yards up and we're going to have to, but the reason we're going to do it is because we're trying to get pressure on the quarterback. And I think in the second half yesterday, Jeff, AG realized, hey, we have to do what we did last year. And you remember what AG, he actually came out in a press conference last year and said, we don't care if we give up 150 or 200 yards to Justin Jefferson. But what we care about is if we're getting pressure on the quarterback, making him make tough throws to Justin Jefferson, and we'll give up those yards all day as long as at some point we're getting some stops. And I think that's the mindset now after that second half yesterday. I don't think anyone can disagree. And earlier in the show, there was people in the chat saying they were getting some hate because they said the defense is concerning. Yes, if you watch the first half yesterday, you know anything about football and you understand the game of football, yes, that first half defensively was concerning. That was concerning. Dan Campbell would say it, AG, they all would look you dead in the eyes and say that was a problem. If you're being honest with yourself, that was a problem. And then I think they made some adjustments, Jeff, in the second half. You started to see the iffy Brian Branch get to the quarterback. You started seeing different guys get to the quarterback, and I think that was a moment for AG. Hey, as much as we didn't want to go back to what we had to do last year to end the year and in the playoffs, we have to do it now because you cannot let those guys just sit in the pocket, boom, boom, boom. And you know what's one of the more concerning things to me, Jeff, that really little eye-opening yesterday? And I want to pull up this stat here. This is the first time I'm looking at the stat right now, actually. Let me pull it up. San Francisco. What is the one thing that you could get 1,000,000 yards on you on this Detroit Lions defense, Jeff? What was the one thing throughout the whole year they've been very good at besides turnovers? What was the one thing I always bring up?
Stopping the run.
Run, yes, but the red zone?
In red zone.
Red zone defense. Guess what the 49ers were in the red zone yesterday?
Perfect.
5 for 5.
Yep.
That's the concerning part of all of it. I don't care if you give up the yards. Like, I really don't. You did it last year and you almost went to a Super Bowl. Should have played for a Super Bowl, could have won a Super Bowl. And you had that defense. That's not what I'm worried about. I'm more worried about is, hey, if you're going to give those yards up, you can't give those yards up and not be good in the red zone. You can't. You're going to lose every game. You can't. So I think to be not lose every game. I'll take that back because offensively you're going to outscore.
It'll be significantly.
But you're putting your team in a tough spot when you're going. Teams are going 5 for 5 in the red zone versus you. You're giving up 1,000,000 yards, and your offense has to be almost perfect all game. So I think, Jeff, that's the more concerning part defensively to me. And if they can figure that out, if they can get back to their MO, which is, hey, bend, don't break. We get stops in the red zone and we create turnovers, and we'll give you as many yards as you want. You could have 700, 800 yards on us total in the game. We don't care. We're going to stop you a couple times in the red zone. We're going to force field goals and we're going to create turnovers. That's the identity that I think Sunday night you need to see. And I hope so at Ford Field, you start to see it a little bit more. And I think today when Dan and AG went to Allen Park and they sat in their training facility, I think that's probably, in my opinion, I've heard Dan say it 1,000,000 times. I've heard AG say it. I think they say, hey, you need to get back to our identity. That was not it last night. 5 for 5 in the red zone. That's not us. And Jeff, that's where I understand you kind of yesterday a little like, hey, whoa, this is not good. And I think typically when you see that, again, you're getting those stops in the red zone. You were a top 5 red zone defense, even with the injuries. And you weren't yesterday. 5 for 5. That's unacceptable.
You know what's a crazy stat? So their last 4 games, 49ers, Bears, Bills, Packers. The Bears were 1-3 in the red zone, but okay. It's the Bears. Let's look at the better teams, okay? The 49ers, Bills, Packers. Those 3 teams, 49ers, Bills, Packers, combined 14 of 17 in the red zone.
Yeah, that's it's not going to get the job done.
That's insane. I don't even know what percent. I'll do the
defensively. Defensively, and again, I still think Lions can win all these games because obviously they're 2-1 in those games because their offense is that elite.
82% in red zone.
But at some point, you have to find a way to get stopped in the red zone, and I think that's where AG. It's in that fourth quarter yesterday. I said it versus the Bears. He figured something out. He figured something out in this fourth quarter with the pressures. And that's what it needs to be like in the red zone. In the red zone, guess what you have to do? You have to send a safety. You have to blitz a corner. You have to find a way in the red zone to get more pressure. Because they sat there all day in the red zone and said, hey, George Kittle, boom, down to the 4-yard line. Oh, Brock Purdy runs right up the middle for a touchdown. Like, that can't happen.
No.
You have to have some pride defensively to be able to go out there and not allow that to happen. And they had that before that Packers game. They didn't even have Hutch for that stretch of games, and they were still going out there and getting stops in the red zone. So it's not, to me, Jeff, it's not that, hey, to me, it's not, you don't have the guys to do it. Like, that's, to me, it's like you just have to go do it because you did it without Aiden Hutchinson. You did it. And then that Green Bay, like, so it's like it's proven. You saw it without Hutch. So for me, it's just more so that, hey, you guys got to, like, wind this thing in and figure this thing out defensively. Because it's going to be tough. I'm not saying you can't win. And Jesse said they also have had McNeil. They had McNeil in the Packers game too.
I was going to say they had McNeil in the Packers game, and the Packers were 4 or 5. So
it's like there was obviously
no. He went out that game, actually.
No, he went out in the Bills game. It was the Bills game.
No, because Pat played in that Packers. Remember we praised Pat because he had a big game against the Packers.
Pat had a game, but I thought Aleem got hurt in the Bills game.
He tore his ACL, but he had the jaw or something.
Oh, he's probably in and out. Either way, though,
but
I'm not going to say Aleem's
like
the reason.
They had Carlton in that Packers.
Yeah, so to me, it's just more so like, hey, this seems like, yes. And Jeff, I said it yesterday. There have been times where you have not had personnel and AG has found a way to get it done. Yes, obviously talent goes so far, but like, hey, yesterday, dude, there were just plays where you're just missing tackles. Like you had to step up and make a play. And we've seen second, third string guys make plays for this Lions defense consistently at times. And in the last 2 or 3 weeks, it hasn't been happening. And I don't know what it is. So they just need to figure that thing out. And if they do, listen, Jeff, and I'm going to be honest with you, and I would love to know your answer. If you see Sunday night, they still give up 24 points, whatever it is, but you win the game and you see more stops in the red zone. And yeah, they get a lot of yards, but you're starting to see red zone stops, some more turnovers. Does that change your kind of mindset a little bit? It doesn't obviously have to be like drastically, but just a little bit to where, okay, hey, they can win timely stops. Because last night, there were timely stops last night. Like in the second half, when you're like, okay, we need it. Kirby pick. Forced field goal, missed field goal, but you forced a field goal, like timely.
I will say this. If you, depending on how it looks on Sunday, of course, I'm going to give the Lions credit. And of course, I'm going to be like, oh, you beat the Vikings. And they're really good. So it's going to give me more confidence, but I still, of course, I'm still going to be, it depends on how the defense really looks. That's what it's going to come down to. Because I'm not going to learn anything this week new about the offense. I'm not. I mean, we know what this offense
Well, I'll tell you what, Jeff, this defense, you're never going to see them be a top 5 defense again the rest of the year. So I think it's just like,
I don't think top 5. It's like, can you not be 14 of 17 in the red zone?
I agree. Yeah.
Your last 3 games against good teams.
This defense isn't going to end up going out there and being the best defense. You just need to see like, and maybe I'm crazy. I think right now defensively, what you saw yesterday, you're like here. Like, how much farther can you go down? You just gave up $1 million. Brock Purdy had a career high versus you. You can't go much lower. So to me, it's like you can only go up from here, which I think is a positive because now you at least know, hey, this is what our floor is. This is what this is what the bottom feels like defensively.
Oh yeah,
and I do think it can only go up.
I'm looking at the snaps. Yeah, I mean Jalen Reeves may have been he played 62% of the defensive snaps, so he played a lot. But I'm just looking at guys that played.
Hey, can I pull this up real quick? I don't think this is true, but shout out to Single Dads Club. Said Jeff Booner, imagine the Vikings watching the game and seeing horrible Detroit defense, but AG actually playing vanilla D. I think this is genius. 5 chess by AG, or is that just my imagination?
Yeah, you know what?
Awesome.
Single Dad Club. That would be he's playing chess while these other guys are playing checkers. Okay?
Yeah.
He's like, you know what, guys? Let's give up. You know what? Let's let them score. Hear me out. Let's let them score on every possession. And then next week we're going to lock up. If that's actually I would look like an idiot for being concerned then. I would look like an idiot for being concerned on the postgame show and shitting on the defense. If that's the case. But no, I mean, you don't even believe that, Single Dad. You know that. All right. They were trying to get stops. They just couldn't. They just couldn't. And it's something that, again, they have to correct. The red zone defense has to be better because they're so good on offense in the red zone. Like, they're going to score.
Guys,
can you get stops?
This and you know what? Don't let anyone tell you there's not a concern defense about it. I more I think about that, that's crazy to me. Because listen, just think about this. If all right, if everything's okay now, listen, think about it. This defense just figures anything out. Anything. If they figure out a way to get 2 more stops a game, you're going to win games by multiple scores through the playoffs. That's it. Like, that's where I think it's like, yes, there is a concern, but I think the concern is looking at it like, hey, can they figure this thing out? Can AG pull something together? Because if AG pulls together 2 more stops in a game, you're not losing in the playoffs. Like, I think that's where, like, there's a positive, Jeff. Like, hey, if you think the defense can't do it, imagine if they find a way to get 2 more stops a game, Jeff Iafrate. This team is scary. They're back to scary. And I think that's like, hey, get Anzo back, get things back. You have one job every week. You have one team you're going up against in the playoffs per week. Just go in there. Not per week. I'm acting like every week they have 2 games. But just, hey, how can we just pull together 2 more stops? That's it. Force a field goal one more time. Force one more punt a game and give your offense that extra possession or 2. And you will not, like, you're in the Super Bowl. That's how I look at this. And that was why it was like, Jeff, when they were injured and you had Hutch and you had these guys, or even with the Lehman Carlton, it's like, yeah, you're like a clear Super Bowl favorites because your defense can step up and play top 15 football. But now it's like, okay, scrap all of that. Let's just simply just find a way to get 1 or 2 more stops and an extra possession for your offense, a game. You're winning a Super Bowl. As bad as your defense is. And maybe you disagree with me, but that's how I look at it, to where it's like, hey, they're playing that bad and you're still second in the NFL odds to win a Super Bowl. If they can just literally put that much together, if they can give you that much more, you're going to win a Super Bowl. Like, that much more, because you're right there. Offensively, you are top 5 of all time. If you can just get a sliver from your defense, welcome New Orleans. We're on our way.
The Single Dads Club says, I've actually heard this from several people, but I get what you're saying. I actually do believe Aaron Glenn didn't, let everything out of the bag. He's not going to show everything. I do agree with that Single Dad, but I think AG was trying to put up a good, he was trying to get stops, but I also agree. It's the same thing I think with Ben too. Like, Ben's saving some stuff. They should all save some stuff for the Vikings. I mean, I'm with you there. I think AG might have been like, all right, when the Vikings watch this film, let's see what they do. But they're probably going to watch the Lions-Vikings film more so to see what they did against the Vikings rather than this game. But we'll see.
You probably can't do that, though, Jeff, because it's a completely different defense.
That's true, too. That's a good point.
It was the same thing when we played the Bears the second time. New staff, new defense. This one, it's like, hey, you have all new players, essentially. Sorry, what was that you pulled?
Shift God says they're not going to completely shut down anybody, but they got to hold their own as a whole.
Yeah, again, I think you just have to find your offense 1 or 2 more possessions a game, and you can beat anyone.
I was checking right now. Best pass rush grade of the day yesterday night was iffy in Brian Branch. And then you had Levi Onwuzurike and Zadarius Smith comes in at 4.
Zadarius has been I'm just going to throw it out there, and people can come.
But 2 DBs leading that is pretty unfortunate.
Zadarius, and when I was getting my haircut today, it got brought up. Trent Williams not playing at left tackle, or they're basically 2 guys down on their offensive line, maybe even 3. And Zadarius Smith, I didn't see him literally, guys. I didn't even think of Zadarius Smith until this morning because I didn't hear his name once.
Actually, Miles Adams technically, because he had a sack, so he had a higher grade.
That's worrying to me, I think, than anything on this defense. Is like Zadarius Smith. He came out swinging the first couple games in the Honolulu Blue, and since then, he's not swinging at anything. There's nothing happening.
Yeah, he hasn't had a sack in 3 games. Hasn't even had a tackle for loss in 3 games. So it's
Hey, can I ask you, what was Brian Branch's grade defensively? Do you have it for some Brian Branch stuff?
Well, I'm looking at pass rush grade. I can get which one would you rather have, coverage or rush in the passer?
Coverage. I just want to see how or run defense, just his overall grade for the game. Just Brian.
Okay,
Branch.
let me just see. I'll just check the grades. So Brian Branch had a terrible coverage grade, but he had a very good run defense grade. okay tackling grade, and a pretty good pass rush grade. So altogether, if you're looking at defensive grading, he was 12th on the Lions. So he's 12th. Ahead of him, guys like Iffy, Za'Darius, Levi, Jack, Miles Adams, Josh Pascal. Like he was.
That's
12th.
overall.
Yeah, just defensive grade. They factor in run defense, tackling, pass rush, coverage. They factor.
Yeah,
in.
I mean, I'll say this about Brian Branch.
Amik was number one.
I love Brian Branch. The last 2 games, and I've noticed this. I don't know his overall. What would you say?
He's been struggling.
He has, and I don't think it's like we know what Brian Branch is. We just need him to get back to who he is. Like he needs to get back to the Brian Branch you drafted. Like you need that dog back. Like him being 12th graded overall defensive player. He's not even like 11 guys ahead of him. That's a whole defense.
I mean, Amik being number 1 is kind of crazy too. I mean,
Amik's been playing well.
Yeah, Pat O'Connor was 2. Good against the run, good tackling, decent pass rush grade. But yeah, he was number 2 total defensive grade.
I'm just glad I'm not the only one that's noticed, because when I said it yesterday on air, when we were doing the stream, I'm glad I wasn't the only one that noticed, hey, Brian Branch has been struggling over the last 2 weeks. And it's like when a guy like him, who's supposed to be your best defensive player on your defense, is struggling, that is significantly like it pops and shows a little bit more than like if Pat O'Connor's playing bad or Levi O is playing bad, because it's like you need him to play at that level. Like you expect that. And when even if he like is playing half of that, you're like, dude, like that's a big hit to your defense. And maybe that's defensively, Jeff, the last 2 weeks. Like when you lose guys and you guys to step up and he's been playing worse.
Mm-hmm. Well, Boone, speaking of guys playing worse, maybe playing good, let's get to studs and duds.
Okay, here we go.
Talk to me. Studs and duds from yesterday's game. What do you want to start with? You want to do studs?
Can I just start with the stud offensively?
Go ahead. I'll give my stud. Yeah, go ahead.
I want to pull something up here real quick for this one. Hold on a sec.
Oh, he's got some data. Hold on.
I want to pull up a tweet.
What do we got?
I want to pull a tweet up.
Love that.
I think this guy deserves a lot of credit offensively. And he's not going to get any awards. Nothing's going to come his way based off of the NFL season and what's happening right now. But offensively, Jeff, and I think as a team as a whole, the reason the Lions just continue to keep winning and continue to kind of put this, what they're doing together. And obviously you see defensively, they're not giving you much, but offensively, you have all these weapons. You have the offense, you have everything you need. You need someone to be able to control and be able to kind of, hey, take control of the reins and say, hey, let's move forward and let's keep winning. Jared Goff, Jeff Iafrate.
Yep.
He continues. You keep thinking like, hey, he has a big week. You keep thinking like, he's going to probably have another 150-yard game. No, the man went in there yesterday. Nothing really on the line game-wise when it comes to the winning. Like, it was like really nothing. But he's like, I'm going to go play great football. 26 of 34, 303 yards, 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 132 passer rating. I mean, I told you, Jeff, and I'm going to do it at the end of the season. I'm going to put his stats up next to Matt Ryan's 2016 MVP season, and it's almost identical. And Jared Goff, like week after week after week after week, since week 11, since that 5 interception game, people can use that up against him all they want. Since that game, he has been a top 3 quarterback in the NFL, maybe only behind Lamar and Josh Allen, 2 guys who are fighting for the MVP right now. He should be in that conversation. If Saquon's not doing what he's doing, you're probably throwing Jared Goff as a finalist. He has been one of the best quarterbacks I've seen, the last few years. Like that stretch of football since week 11 to week 17 and now going into week 18, incredible. You could put that up against with any quarterback in that game, that stretch of football in the last couple of years, and he's right up there. And I think it's like at some point, I don't know how you can even give him credit and kind of give him his due for that. Because you can't give him MVP, but like I wish there was a way he could, get some shine for what he's doing for this Detroit Lions offense. I really do, because he has been incredible, and that's like an understatement. I feel like it's hard to give him his due, man. It's so tough, but he's been so good.
Yeah, I think that's a great one. He had another that type of performance. I mean, the guy. He's putting up MVP numbers, but it's just not the year where he's in the actual MVP conversation. But there's nothing you can't do anything. I mean, What does the guy change? Nothing. He's balling. So I love that as a stud. I'll go. I kind of want to give my dud actually, but I think it's because it's kind of surprising. But I'll give my stud. I'll give my stud first. I think stud on offense. I'm I'm gonna go with the a choice that's not obvious, but I'm still gonna pick this player because I loved what I saw out of this player. I thought he made some big plays. You know who that is? Take a guess. Someone we weren't expecting to make big plays.
Offensively?
Yeah.
So JMO, you called JMO out. You said JMO, so not him. We know Amon-Ra always makes big plays.
I'm doing something different today.
Gibbs always makes big plays. Are you gonna say Craig?
Give me Allen Robinson.
There's no way.
No, I'm joking. I did want to say as like a
That
joke.
catch was good.
Allen Robinson, dude. Hey, whatever route that man ran to just, I don't know who the corner was. Allen Robinson, I want to give a little credit to here. Okay, showing that he's got some heart, showing that he's got some skill left.
Yeah.
But in all seriousness, my actual stud. I'm going to go with J-Mo, man. The guy that I thought would play well, you know, and I said he was going to lead this team in receiving yards, and he did that. You know, he's on a mission. He's a man on a mission, and he's a man that also continues to develop his craft. He's not just a burner. He's a great route runner. He can get open. He's got better hands than people give him credit for. And I thought J-Mo yesterday, yeah, he led the team in receiving, but he had big plays. He had the rushing touchdown. He had the receiving touchdown. So Jameson Williams, 2 touchdowns on the day. That's my stud. So Allen Robinson, he's my what would you call that? Like honorable mention. That's what it is. He's my honorable mention. Give me Allen Robinson. This guy makes clutch catches. Now for my dud, this is where it gets unfortunate. And this will probably be the last time I say this for the rest of the year. My dud is both tackles, Penei Sewell and Taylor Decker. Yeah. They had a rough game yesterday. They were both awful in pass blocking, which is definitely unlike Penei. But again, you're going to hold him to the standard. And yesterday he did not play well. I just went and looked. Penei Sewell yesterday, I just want to double check, make sure I have all these.
Do you have the grades for them? Because Taylor Decker did. It's tough too because you're going up again. And was it you that kept calling it out yesterday? Like, why are they having Taylor Decker
1-on-1? Yeah,
1-on-1 with Nick Bosa. It's unbelievable. I don't think the only person you would say in the league that could do it maybe is like Trent Williams or Penei Sewell. Even Penei yesterday at times.
I mean, Penei and Taylor both allowed 1 sack, 1 hit, 2 hurries. This is all tied. I mean, they both did it. 4 pressures each. Penei had 1 penalty. Taylor did not. So they had pretty much the same.
I'm for Penei, man.
They both allowed a sack, multiple pressures, a hit. Penei had a penalty. They did not play well. And Nick Bosa was on a mission. He had like 2 sacks, 4 tackle for losses. Like he had a huge day. And I'm just saying this now. Nick Bosa is incredible. He's a very good player. You're going to face better pass rushes in the playoffs, man. You got to be better. You can't let Taylor Decker be on an island with Nick Bosa. You know, you can't. So now I'm just talking about pass blocking. Now run blocking, okay. I think Penei was actually pretty good. Let me double check.
I just want your comment real quick. You did. Did you say you're going to go up against better pass rushers in the playoff? I don't think you are. I think Nick Bosa.
You're going to go up against good defensive lines, yes.
That's better. Like Penei, honestly, the Nick Bosa thing, like I'm not worried about Penei at all because I think like you're not going to go.
I'm not either.
In the NFC, like what pass rusher is as good as Nick Bosa? Like the Rams don't have one as good as Nick Bosa. The Vikings don't.
No, but if you remember, actually, it's not about. I didn't mean to say Nick Bosa, but defensive lines. If you remember that Rams game. They got pressure on Goff because they got those young guys. And that was the first game of the year. And now they're a little more seasoned. So there's some sneaky defensive lines in the Now in the postseason, like if you play the Packers, like they were getting some pressure. They just got to be better. Not Panay. I'm not really harping as much on Panay. He had a bad game, but Taylor's had a couple of these this year. So like Taylor, I know he's a little banged up, but protecting Goff's blind side, man. You gotta be a little better. So that's my dud. Who's yours?
I mean, offensively, there wasn't a lot of duds, so there's not a lot to pick from here. Let me think. I got one.
You can go defensively. What do you think?
Well, I'll do offense. I'll stick with offense. I'll stick with it, and we'll go to defense. I'll say Jamar Jefferson. I hate doing that to him because he's getting his chance in the NFL.
Yeah,
but I think like anyone, like offensively, like everyone was pretty good. I don't think there was a bad part. Obviously, the tackles struggled a bit, but in the run game they were good. The only thing was like when you went through this running back rotation thing. Craig, I thought was good. He averaged like seven yards a touch when it comes to pass game and run game. Jamar Jefferson, no, I think that was the one. I saw someone in the chat at one point. If you're still in here, you can throw it in there. But someone was like, Jamar Jefferson still ran really hard, and I was like, God. He had 3 carries for 9.
He ran hard. He ran hard for a loss of 1.
Yeah, he had one. So he had 3 carries. One of them was for 8 yards. So that's a good one. But he had 2 carries in the red zone or in the goal line. And both of them went nowhere. And you could maybe say, the offensive line. And it's not at Jamar. I think it's hard to put this on Jamar, but I just think like, hey, like you should have probably gone Craig or Jameer in those positions. So I would have to say Jamar. I loved what Craig Reynolds did. And I love what Jameer did, obviously. But if you're looking at a negative on the offense, I think when you had Jamar out there, that was where it was like goal line plays. It was like, what are we doing here? That was not good.
I will
and a tour put in there. Jamar landed 2 crack blocks at safe. That's huge too. That's big. But I'm just saying more so playmaking wise when you're getting the rock, making those plays. Again, I feel bad. It's like we have to do a dud offensively. Who are you gonna? I would love to see the chat. Who are you gonna do? Like outside of the tackles, who are you going to put? I would love to see someone pull out something.
That's fair. Now defensively, a dud for me. I'm going Germ. Germ. Yeah, he had a tough outing. He really did, and in coverage. So that's the guy I would point to. But I will say it's not fair to him because he got activated and then played right away. But I'm pointing out what I saw. He didn't have a good day.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go with Germ for my dud of the game yesterday.
Do you think with Germ, do you think since it was his first game and how long, and he typically already wasn't a guy that getting 80% or 70% of defense snaps. Do you think it was come Sunday night, okay, another week of prep, another week of being with the team, another week of practice.
He'll get better.
He got the game reps in. He feels comfortable again. To that, it feels like he's going to be better Sunday.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I agree with that. He's just rusty. I see the comment there. Yeah, he's just rusty.
Okay,
he's coming back. It was his first game back, and it's not fair to him. He had to play a bunch of snaps, but it is it did happen. He didn't play well, so.
Yeah, all right, I'll say my one dud, and I think we already talked about him. I'm just going to be consistent with this. Zadarius Smith. You even just look at the box score. You could box score watch. You could watch the game all you want. Well, you can watch the game. You're probably not seeing him. He's been very disappointing the last 2 or 3 weeks. 0 tackles, even that. In the run game, you're saying, hey, make a play here or there. You don't want him to have all these tackles, but 1 or 2. Get any production. He had a quarterback hit, but didn't even feel like he had that. It's just all game long. You're talking about this is supposed to be your premier edge rusher in the playoffs, the guy that you traded for to step up and make plays. And he just has not been that the last few weeks. He did so good the first 3 or 4 weeks in Detroit after getting traded. And then just all of a sudden, I don't know what it is, Jeff. I have no clue what it could be. But you went up against backups yesterday, essentially, in that 49ers offensive line and did not make an impact. No impact. I didn't see it. Maybe you did. Maybe if you guys – I did not see it. But Zadarius Smith, and this is now one of those things where it's this is back-to-back weeks of hey, where's Zadarius Smith at? And that's your premier edge rusher. Remember how much of hate Aiden Hutchinson was getting when he was just getting pressures? He was getting 6, 7 pressures a week, and people, we want sacks, but he was getting so many pressures, and he was affecting the offense. If you're giving Aiden Hutchinson heat for that last year, you should be all over Zadarius Smith. I hope those same people, and Jeff, you know who I'm talking about, I think. Those same people who last year we had those arguments with people, Jeff, who on pregame shows, who were going at Zadarius or Aiden Hutchinson last year for not converting pressures into sacks and saying you need more than just pressures. I hope those same people are holding Zadarius Smith to the same level there and the accountability. I really do, because Zadarius Smith, like, obviously he's not going to do what Aiden Hutchinson's doing, and he's not going to go out there and be able to produce as Aiden Hutchinson. But to go out there, Jeff, I don't know if you have PFF up. Can you give me how many pressures Zadarius Smith had yesterday? I would love to know, because you would expect at least 4, 5, 6 maybe out of him. And like, you're not even getting that. So I hope people that were holding Hutch and going at Hutch over the last year or two for at least getting pressures, I hope those people are kind of holding accountability to Zadarius Smith over the last couple of weeks, because it's been brutal. He has been non-existent. And this is, like, again, personally with Zadarius, love him as a teammate, love him as a leader here since he's been here. He's been great in the locker room, it seems like. He's been big for this defense. But when you're talking about, hey, putting like stuff on paper and like making an impact on the field, that's when you need to start like, hey, we need that. Jeff, to your point, like, is this defense ever going to step up and get pressure to help guys in the secondary out? Guess who that starts with? DJ Reader, Zadarius Smith. Those are your vets. And if you're not getting anything out of them, like, that's a problem. That's like a big problem. And I think that's what people need to, like, defensively, you need to look at that and say, hey, Zadarius Smith has been bad. He has been bad for 2 weeks. Do you have the pressures for him, by the way?
Yeah, I could tell you the hurries. I have the hurries here. Zadarius and hits. Zadarius had 2 hurries, but so did Germ and Josh.
Yeah,
you know,
I
but
mean,
like,
I'm not really. I mean, you should have 5 or 6.
Yeah, he's not. I mean, he's I mean,
especially up against a beat up offensive line in Brock Purdy. Like, I hate. I just honesty. It's honesty. I hate going at a guy like Zadarius Smith, because he's, you know, I want him to be able to help and impact his team to win a Super Bowl. But the way he's been playing the last 2 weeks, like, your defense isn't going to get to that level with him playing like that. And you know what? I would say this, Jeff. I think he knows it. Like, I would hope he does. I would hope he's able to be like, yep, I need to be better.
Yeah, he would again agree with that. And he's kind of the vocal leader now in that defensive line room. So he's going to have to take some responsibility. And yeah, Ben Burns says he is struggling because Alima's gone. I mean, that might be correlated. I don't know. But yeah, you're going to need more out of him. You just do. I think a stud for me on defense is the obvious, is Amik Robertson. You know, he balled yesterday. One of the only guys to really have a complete game. And he was great in coverage. He made timely stops, had some pass deflection. So Amik Robertson, man, great game. He balled. No.
Yeah, I just saw this. I'm looking it up. Adam Schefter, and 3 hours ago, Yannick Ngakoue waived by the Patriots. That's big. I honestly, you got to go through waivers, obviously, and he hasn't really had a big year since 2022. In 23, he had 4 sacks. This year, he had 1.5 sacks with Baltimore, and then 0 with the Patriots in 6 games. But either way, bring the man in here.
No.
What's up, Caleb?
What up? What's going on, fellas? I don't mean to interrupt you guys here, but just wanted to hop on. Great win yesterday. I'm happy. I'm happy with, the outcome. Obviously, was a little bit ugly on the defensive side. I kind of just came in here because I Jeff, yesterday, and this is like not like a shot at you, but yesterday you said something about Alex Anzalone, and you said, like, is Alex Anzalone like prime Ray Lewis, like with the way people are talking about him? I'm telling you right now, and I tweeted this out yesterday, all these defensive problems we had yesterday, it was all in the middle of the field, and it was all off of misdirection and bad linebacker play. Jalen Reeves-Maybin, I know he was a good piece to get back, but he was terrible yesterday. Jack Campbell didn't play a great game. Ezekiel Turner did not play well. Alex Anzalone is going to be huge to get back. Ginormous. A veteran green dot linebacker to get back.
Oh.
And like that misdirection and all those plays we saw yesterday, Kevin O'Connell was taking notes. Like he sees that, and that's going to be the game plan for him. But I didn't mean to interrupt you, fellas. But that's one thing I wanted to say. It's Alex Anzalone is going to be. We need him. We need him
Caleb,
next week.
I'll tell you what. I went on a 10-minute rant today about Anzo, and and the impact that Alex Anzalone will make. And to your point, Caleb, I know you came in, you went at Jeff a little bit right away. I straight up told Jeff, I told Jeff, I said, Jeff, you don't think you think that's a little gap at the end zone? And I think Jeff, I think I turned him a little bit with it because it's not, and I said this probably in hour one. Alex Anzalone won. Yes, you're getting his play back and how high level he is in the middle of the field. You're getting all that back. There is nothing you can do. I said, Caleb, I mentioned it. AG said it in the offseason. He is one of the best linebackers in the NFL currently at calling audibles, at playing chess with a quarterback. When a quarterback makes an audible, he moves the chess piece. When a quarterback moves their chess piece, he moves his chess piece. And he said he has never seen anything like it since he was on the Super Bowl team, or I think it was a Super Bowl team there in New Orleans in practice. He said one of their linebackers, again, I'm forgetting the name, a Hall of Famer, I think, would do that versus Drew Brees in practice. And they would go back and forth, all practice, countering each other. And he said, Anzo, that's the level he's on now. He is on that level on countering. And I think, like, when you look at it, like you look at the run game sometimes struggling. You look at pass grip, linebackers and coverage. You look at the pass rush with the defensive line. Anzo calls all of that out. When he sees the quarterback make an adjustment on the offensive line, when he sees the quarterback change a play because of coverage, or when he sees something, Anzo's the one that counters and makes those changes. As much as Jack Campbell, I think, as a player, he's going to pass Anzo up. You can't get 8 years of NFL experience like that when it comes to that type of things and kind of knowing what a quarterback's and especially in AG's defense. He has been with AG for so long. So Anzalone, like, he is going to listen. That's a way bigger impact. And then even Caleb, I said this, the fact that right now, like you're having Jack in coverage, you don't really have the options of who you can blitz. Now with Anzo back, you can blitz Jack Campbell. You can blitz Germ off the edge. You can get different guys in different spots to make some moves defensively. I think this turns the defense to not a different level where it's like, oh, they're going to be so good. But I think like what you saw yesterday probably doesn't happen as much with Jack Campbell or with Alex Anzalone, just based off of he's going to change plays. He's going to be countering the offense. He, like, everything he does, it changes a lot. Like it's a significant, even if he's not playing at a high level, just him being out there and communicating, I think, is like it's huge.
Yeah, it's not just what he does. He's the veteran presence, but it's also his impact just kind of on the field. You know what I mean? Like I always say, and I think he's one of the better linebackers going sideline to sideline in the NFL, and we need some speed in that linebacker room right now. And yeah, he's going to be a huge get back. And that wasn't really me coming at Jeff at all. It was just like,
no, it's all right. I already did it. I did it earlier.
He might not be like the top 5 guy, but like a player like Anzo is what this defense needs right now.
Yeah, I just checked. I'm looking at Yannick Ngagwe. Sorry, that's my bad. I'm just I'm doing research right now. I like it. Yannick, why not? Bring him in if you can. I really don't. You could take all the help you can at pass rush. You just can. And Yannick, I just checked some of his game logs. Yeah, he was actually pretty good in Baltimore this season. And then he went to New England and he was trash. So I think that would, correct me if I'm wrong, boys. Patriots trash team. He struggles. Baltimore, good defensive line. He thrives. Okay. Yeah. Is that fair? That would be a fair assessment. I'm open to this. I'm just looking. I'm looking. He had 2 hurries in New England in like 5-6 games, and he had 4 in like 4 games with the Baltimore Ravens. Just bring him home. You know what? Just bring him home. Can he get after the quarterback? Bring him home. I hope he falls.
You guys touched on it, but I mean, Zadarius Smith, man, what the
Brutal.
Like? He is a ghost. Like we haven't seen him since the Jacksonville game.
I know.
There's been nothing there, and I mean, I want to give a shout out to Josh Pascal too. I was watching the game back last night when I got home, and it was like that guy he hustles, man. He's all over the field. Like he's making tackles on the sideline. He's getting in the backfield. He might not be getting to the quarterback much, but that he's a football player, man, and he embodies everything that Dan Campbell loves. That grit. He plays 100% every snap, and that was tough for the defense yesterday because 49ers ran fast. And for those big defensive linemen going up every 20 seconds and having to go 100%, that's tough. But Josh Paschal did it. Shout out Josh Paschal. I know he didn't come up in the sack column, or at least I don't think he did. But he played a hell of a game yesterday.
We got like 15 minutes left.
Hey, Boone brought up the Zadarius Smith stuff, and I'm with kind of Braylon. Zadarius needs some help, because at this age he's just not. There's a reason he was pretty good with Myles Garrett, and there's a reason he was pretty good.
He had help.
He had some help. I think it's he needs help. Like other guys need to step up, or something's got to happen here. You got to.
I think next year, like the defensive line, like the brutal part about it too is like next year with Zadarius and Hutch, and maybe Davenport comes back cheap and can stay healthy, and then you add DJ Reader or Aleem, like you start maybe add another piece in the draft and maybe get another vet somewhere in that defensive line for next season, and you have Levi, Josh Paschal. Like next year, defensive line is going to be scary. Like Zadarius with help around him, like he's good. DJ Reader and Aleem, like. I think more so it's about like looking at it now, it's like, dude, the fact you lost those guys and you're sitting there and like you can't get anything out of Zadarius because he needs the help, it seems like. And DJ Reader, like DJ Reader's DJ Reader, but you still need another defensive tackle next to him getting to the quarterback. Like that's where you get into a problem. But like next year, it's like, oh, we're going to be good next year if guys stay healthy. We have one of the best defensive lines in the NFL probably if you stay healthy. But outside of that, it's like that's not until next year. So I see a lot of people are like, hey, go get JPP. Go get the – I just don't know, like, what you can get to help. Like, maybe he helps, but you're in such a weird spot with that defensive line. Like, your defensive tackles outside of DJ Reader, like maybe Levi Owen there if you throw him in there, but who's helping you in the defensive line? Pat O'Connor? As much as we joke around, like, we love Pat O'Connor. Like, it's still, like –
he's a player.
That's not a Lee McNeil,
No, it's not. It's not. And, one thing, this is a conversation more for the offseason, but we have Brad Holmes drafting too. So, like, if it's not Zadarius Smith, if we end up – I would have to look at, like, the numbers and stuff. But if we don't go with Zadarius Smith next year, I think we would save $8 million or something. I could be completely wrong. I'm going to look more into that. But, why not go draft one in the late rounds? I trust Brad Holmes, drafting an edge rusher that will make an impact for this team. But, again, that's more of a conversation for the offseason. But like Jeff, you said, Anzalone Ngakwe, like we're going to have to – I think we have to bring someone else in. Like we have to. Right now. Like it's – right now just what's happening on the defensive line.
What's brutal is the Dolphins probably should have been out of the playoffs 2 weeks ago, and you could have had a chance at one of those guys. Now that they're still playing for the playoffs, like you're sitting there, it's like, all right, can you add one of those guys in the playoffs? I don't know how that works when it comes to waivers and picking guys up. Because I know you have to have playoff rosters and there's there's a lot of different things. Like Calais Campbell, that would be an unbelievable addition to this team if they weren't fighting for a playoff spot right now in Miami.
What do you guys think the Lions rank in the NFL if you're stacking teams?
I'm going to stay consistent.
Doesn't mean you don't think they won't win a Super Bowl, but just
I'm going to stay consistent. I don't think they moved from my spot last week. I had the Bills at number 1. I'll keep the Bills there just because they keep winning and they beat the Lions. I'm still going to put the Lions at 2. Like I'm going to keep them. I'm going to keep them where they're at. And I'm not going to be mad too. And if you have them at 3-4, like I'm not going to argue that because I think there's, 3-4 weeks ago, Lions are head and heels over everyone. Like everyone. Like they're the favorites by a mile. Right now with the defense, I would say, hey, I'm going to put them at 2, but I think 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Are all on the same level. Like I think the Bills, Lions, Chiefs, Eagles, am I missing a team, boys? Vikings, I would even say right there. I think they're just all on that level to where hey, any one of those teams can go to a Super Bowl and win it. And I'll just throw them at 2 because they just beat teams. They put 40 points up on teams every week.
Yeah, I'm gonna put them at 3, and it's my 1 and 2 is gonna be Buffalo and Philly. But like
out on Philly. Jalen Hurts.
If Jalen Hurts comes back, like with a healthy Philly team,
if
you're right, You're right.
He's just
Currently,
trying
right now, Caleb, he is not healthy, so I'm not going to put them at 2.
Okay, well, I'm going to count him on being healthy.
That's when we do power rankings. That's taken into account.
But you know what he means, right?
I do, but
you know what he means.
With Jalen Hurts on the field,
they don't have Jalen Hurts. Kenny Pickett, Eagles number 2. There you go, Caleb.
Go ahead.
Jalen Hurts, Eagles number 2, and then 3. Honestly, this is really tough for me. It's like a 3A, 3B thing for me. That's why this game on Sunday is going to be so awesome. Minnesota is really, really good. Like, they're a great football team. So I mean, 3 right now, it's Lions, and then I'll put the Vikings at 4. But it really is like a 3A, 3B. Like, Minnesota's really good. And I'm nervous for Sunday. I'll say it. I'll be the one to say it. That team's really good.
Yeah, I have them at 4, actually. But I have the Chiefs. You guys had the Chiefs. You didn't have the Chiefs in your top 4. And I think Booner had them at – would you have the Chiefs at, Boone?
I think I had them at 3 or 4.
Yeah, so me and you are kind of the same. But yeah, I think as of right now, again, if Jalen Hurts is healthy and he's back, obviously Kenny Pickett's not Jalen Hurts, but I would put the Lions at 4. But that's still, I mean, top 4 teams. Those are the teams you expect to be in an NFC Championship game. I think the Lions are better than the Vikings.
Yeah, they are.
Where I stand right now. I just with the injuries and where they are as a roster. But let's get to mailbag. And,
by the way, too, I saw people, Booner, you had the Vikings as Super Bowl contenders. Like the Vikings are 14-2, and I've had this back and forth with Klotz all year long, and I'm kind of past that point. Whether they win or lose in the playoffs or not, I would think if you watched football and you were like paying it and you watched their games, like guys, we watched the Pack. That's a legit football team. Like defense, offense, special, like that's a legit team. I don't look at that roster as like a couple of years ago as the Vikings that won the North and they were frauds. Like I do think this is a legit fight, whether they lose in the first round or not or whatever. If you've watched the Vikings, you do know. As much as this is like hate Vikings week, I mean, do you guys disagree with me? Like, I think this is a legit team. Like you have to take them serious, and especially in the playoffs. Like if they got hot in the playoffs, like you could see them in the NFC Championship game. I wouldn't be shocked at all.
Oh, look at this. Ryan says mailbag Lions versus Chiefs Super Bowl 2 minutes left. Chiefs have 3 timeouts. It's like a situation your head coach. Lions versus Chiefs Super Bowl 2 minutes left. Chiefs have 3 timeouts. Do you kick the extra point to go up 8 or go for 2 to go up 9 and effectively end the game?
You go for 2.
Yeah, you go for 2.
Because if you don't get to 2, you're still up 7, and then they just kick a field goal to go to OT. You go for 2 to put the game away. Versus the Chiefs, have you watched them all year? Every single game they play, it's literally they just get the ball last somehow, some way, and kick a field goal to win it.
Yeah, it's like Patrick Mahomes.
He's always going to find a way.
Yeah, he's human until 2 minutes. He's human until he needs a game-winning drive. Like that this season, at least. Like every time there's 2 minutes left and they're down by a touchdown, it's Chiefs money line all the way. I mean, they're not losing that ball game.
Shift got his mailbag. Do you think we see Khalif on Sunday?
Oh, I forgot Khalif's coming back. Yeah, I mean, honestly, he got taken off the IR last week. His practice. No, he didn't get taken off IR technically. His clock started, so he has, I think, 21.
He's got
time. Worst case scenario, you see him week 1 of the playoffs. I'll say that.
Jesse Adams mailbag. Jeff, don't you think Booner's pants would get super tight if the Lions add Calais Campbell before this playoff run? I think he would love that pick. Haha. P.S. He's old as hell.
Shout out Jesse. I think Jesse may have misunderstood me. Yes, I would love him. That was my point. Was I wish the Dolphins were out of the playoffs earlier so we could get him.
That's funny.
He is old, but I mean, hey.
No, I'll take it.
Anything on this team would help right now.
Hey, MCDC's big old ball bag. No mail sack, but happy New Year, fellas. Love the insights and the fun to a big year for you boys. Cheers.
Go MCDC's big old ball bag.
Cheers. Happy New Year.
Yeah, happy New Year.
Happy New
Year. Appreciate it. Richard, also no one has beaten the Lions but the Lions. All the losses were bad performances by the offense, so the Lions can win if they play well. I mean, let's
call a spade here, boys. Lions would have had a longer win streak. That Tampa Bay game going 1 for 7 in the red zone and you lose by a possession. That, like, you look back at that and you're like, oh my, like, think about the 2 losses. Yeah. Like, this team could be undefeated right now. You have a 6-point loss to the Bills, to where you kick the onside kick with 12 minutes left where you're still in the game. And then you have the 1 for 7 in the red zone versus the Bucs, where it's like, if you go 2 for 7, you win the football game. Like, you are literally 2 possessions away from being 16-0 right now. That's how good this team is. And that's with the injuries too. That's with the injuries. That's crazy.
That Bucs game, I mean, that was tough. I mean, what did Goff threw the ball like 55 times or something? That offensive game script was brutal. But on the flip side of that, like,
red zone offense was trash. They were 1 for 7.
And it was the worst we've ever seen with Ben Johnson.
Oh, not good. Not good.
91 reasons says, Jeff, don't be scared, homie.
For a second.
Coach Walk 37 says the offense can't always carry this team.
Disagree.
It
has all year.
I just love Booners. Disagree.
I love Coach Walk though.
Here's Coach Johnny. Lions v Rams NFC Championship game at Ford Field? ?
Dude, are the Rams? I don't know. Real weird. Because there was 3 weeks ago they were like, okay, this team's fucking scary, and then these past couple weeks it's been like they're scoring like.
Caleb, let me tell you something about the Rams and Sean McVay. They're going to find a way no matter what. They're going to find a way.
I don't know. I like that D-line.
I think last year, honestly, if the Rams played any other team but the Detroit Lions last year in that first round game, they beat any other team.
That was a good.
Even the 49ers. If they played the 49ers to open up last week or last year in the playoffs, I think they knocked the 49ers off. Seeing how the 49ers played against us and how the 49ers played against us. Like, Green Bay almost beat the 49ers. If the Rams had the 49ers and we didn't beat them, Rams would have beat them last year. Like, that, they find a way. Sean McVay's game plans in the playoffs, like, he figures that thing out. And you have Stafford rolling. Defense is better than people think. Like, they're going to be a problem. Caleb, don't worry over there.
I'm not worried.
What was that comment? Jeff, don't be scared, homie. He's just, hey, you're good, Caleb. Ryan, Rams might get 4th seed. Seems like they're resting starters.
Yeah, I think they're locked into the 4th seed, right? Oh, no. Bucs. Bucs might get the 4th seed.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, what's the records? Isn't it close?
Well, the Bucs hold the Bucs are leading their division, so that would be the 4th seed.
Well, the Rams are too. Rams are the 3rd seed right now.
What's their records?
Rams are 10-6. Bucs are 9-7. So if the Rams win, they lock in the 3 seed.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe they locked the 3 seed in already. Maybe they held the tiebreaker over the Bucs. I don't know. But
Jesse says, Mailbag, do you guys agree that if we take the L Sunday, I think we can win? He says, I'd rather play Tampa Bay or Falcons than going to the Rams. I'd rather not play Stafford in the playoffs. I'm with you. Yeah, no.
I think if I'm being honest, I think, again, just based off of what we just talked about, I think if you do get the 5 seed, I think it's automatically the Bucs. I think.
I would rather play
the
Rams. For sure.
I don't see a world. I guess we have to see the tiebreaker, but I would think the Rams, either they're going to play their guys and lock up that 3 seed, or because who do the Rams play? Let me see. The Rams play the Seahawks. Yeah. I would think they try and Rams lose, Bucs win, the Rams get the 4 seed. Yeah, so I think the Rams aren't resting starters. You want the 3 seed.
Well, Single Dad's Club asked, is there anyone you'd not like scared? You don't have to say scared to play, but anyone you don't want to play.
Any NFC North team?
Yeah.
I don't want to play a team.
I'd play the Packers. I'd play the Packers. I'd play the Packers again. Minnesota, no. Philly, no.
No, I don't care about Philly. I think we could beat Philly, to be honest. I think it's more so playing a team a third time. It's like that's always like that's where I kind of get a little like, especially like say you beat the Vikings this week, you either play the Packers or the Vikings for a third time in a season. I've said it before, in any sport, it's hard to beat a team 3 times, man. It's tough.
It is. But I'll say this too, boys, and I'm being dead serious. What does this defense look like against Jane Daniels? Like, he's a stud. And I know the Detroit Lions are light years ahead of the Commanders, but dude, Jane Daniels against the Lions defense, boom, serious, dude. Jane Daniels, you have to put respect on his name.
Listen, Caleb,
he just ran for 130 yards last week.
The thing a little bit here is like a team like that, you play the Commanders. Like, let me see something real quick. I
ain't worried about Terry McLaurin. I'll tell you that.
I just don't see a world where the Commanders defense isn't stopping the Lions offense. Like, that's a team where it's like you're probably scoring 40 plus in the playoffs on is the Commanders. They do. I'm not disrespecting their defense. Bobby Wagner, love him. it's just like Jaden Daniels, yeah, he could do whatever he wants. He's probably going to score 24, 27 on us. We're putting 30 plus up on you.
Jay Hart, where's your mailbag? I'm trying to find Jay Hart's mailbag. Oh, here we go. Jay Hart, electric post-game interview from J-Mo and Sun God. This team's chemistry is what gives me faith every week. Also, Jeff, I smell another Pistons win streak brewing. You know what? That's what I'm fucking talking about, Jay Hart. That's the energy I expect you to bring every single time you're here, Jay Hart. Just bring the juice, and you're doing that. So I appreciate it. Phil says, what are the show times now? Nothing's changed except for, obviously, today it's New Year's, so we're not going to go live tonight. We're not going to go live tonight because, obviously, it's New Year's Eve. So we're live in kind of afternoon. Typically, it's 8 to 10. It's always going to be 8 to 10. Unless there's a holiday or something, we'll tell you guys if it switches. And then Saturdays, 10 to 11 now, Caleb and Gentry are live. So,
Yes, sir.
And then you guys know I'm live in the mornings kind of by myself on Monday morning. So that's another thing. But that's the only programming we have. This is just because of New Year's, of course.
Thursday, like tomorrow, we're off. No shows tomorrow. Thursday, we'll be back 8 to 10 p.m.
Purple Princess, who's the defensive player of the year?
We didn't even talk about Kirby defensive player of the year. Listen, I just put the bet in today. He is now – so last night when we were doing the post-game show, Kirby was plus 6,000 for defensive player of the year. I woke up this morning and opened it up. He is now plus 1,200. He went from plus 6,000 to plus 1,200 overnight. And listen, boys, I'll tell you this. I've been pretty consistent on like these awards. A lot of these awards, outside of maybe like even MVP a little bit, it's like a media award to where it's like, hey, you need the media to be on your side to win this award because a lot of those guys are guys who vote for it. TJ Watt right now has 11.5 sacks. Like he's not having his best season of all time. There is no one right now who it's like, hey, that's the clear defensive player of the year. If Kirby Joseph goes Saturday night or Sunday night, has another interception, has a good game, makes a couple big plays, not even just interception. Like, yeah, you want an interception, but like a couple big plays, like tackles, and he goes out there and makes a couple pass breakups. I think you really can consider and say, hey, he should be defensive player of the year. Because like what he's doing, leading the NFL in interceptions, the man just makes plays in big time games and prime time consistently. With TJ Watt, it's like, yeah, TJ Watt's been consistent. Even Trey Hendrickson's been consistent. Trey Hendrickson's plus 1,200, just like Kirby Joseph is. So it's like you're looking at it and you're like, TJ Watt's minus 110. Second is Patrick Surtain, which Kirby Joseph should be above him right now. Just to me, it's just, hey, if you go out there and have a big game on Sunday night, you have to give it to Kirby Joseph. And you know what? I say the media controls these awards. Dan Orlovsky today tweeted out Kirby Joseph, defensive player of the year. He's probably, I can almost guarantee, I bet you Dan Orlovsky has a vote for that.
Yeah, that'd be huge. That'd be huge. I'm sorry, Boone, I didn't hear you. Is there a minus money favorite right now for Depoy?
TJ Watt's like minus 105 or minus 110. He was like minus 600 at one point.
Where's Hendrickson?
He's right there with he's plus 1,200.
Wow, what?
Yeah, that's kind of crazy. I mean, on the bad defense, I mean, it's tough.
I mean, that's true. But like, could you imagine if the Bengals were good, Burrow would win MVP, and then Hendrickson would win Depoy? I guess the Bengals are good now. I guess you could call them a good team. They were shit for a couple weeks, but they're kind of back.
Hey, good stuff today.
For like the first 10 weeks, they were terrible.
Yeah. Hey, good stuff today, fellas. Great show last night. Everyone that tuned in, much appreciated. Get your merchandise, of course. Booner's got the hoodie on. It looks very good. You can get officialcgsports.com. Get your merch. Happy New Year. Tomorrow we'll be live, or not tomorrow, excuse me. Thursday we'll be live. We'll be back with the doc. Be another Thursday with the doc this week. But until then, we appreciate you all. Have a great night. Stay safe out there. If you're going to drink and indulge, be safe. We need you for Thursday. And go live.
Make sure to Uber if you need to Uber. Make sure to do that.
Always Uber. We'll catch you guys later.
Peace. Go Lions, baby.